Hour and thunderstorm patterns Sunday and 80, and Monday back to spot storms, partly sunny, 82. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Welcome to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in for Mark today. Mark's out playing, having fun. And in the meantime, I get to be here having fun with you. And just so you know, I would rather spend my Friday before Memorial Day weekend hanging out with you, apparently, than Mark does, because he's not here. But I am. Brad Young sitting in today, having a blast. And whenever I'm in on Fridays, I like to call it the Reardonless Roundtable, because there is no one here named Reardon, just Brad Young, and also Ted House. Great to see you again, sir.
Brad, thank you. Wonderful to be here.
Everybody knows Ted, former circuit judge, former presiding judge, former Missouri State Senator. I told him before the show, he's got a resume as long as George H.W. Bush, but we're glad that you're here today. Also joining us, David Barklage. David, good to see you, sir. GOP political strategist. And what's great about the Reardon Roundtable, or even better, the Reardonless Roundtable, is that we get to have some discussions. And I'm a big proponent of letting the guests give some ideas, which is somewhat different than what Mark usually likes to do. But I will chime in as the need arises. And I want to start with this, because this is something that even as a strong conservative, I have some issues with. And I'm going to start with you, Ted. But the question about Trump's $1 billion DOJ fund is being questioned by Congress. And I guess to put it into a throw-out question here, should presidents in general have this broad discretion over such a large legal defense fund and enforcement-related political fundraising efforts? Because in essence, to some degree, Trump is on both sides of the litigation. What are your thoughts on this political fund?
Well, Brad, the first thing I want to say is I'm very glad to be here today with my buddy David Barklage.
Yep.
We go back a long ways. We actually went to college together at Central Methodist University in Fayette, Missouri. That was a few generations ago.
So I'm getting homeboyed. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, and I told Ted walking in, I said that they used Ted as a recruitment tool, and I came in as a freshman and Ted was a senior, and they said, this is what you can be. I've never realized that. I've never been anything like I could compare to Ted, but it was he was what drew me into the university.
Excellent.
We had fun. We disagreed on a few things then, and may today as well, but there's always a lot of common ground. So, but to get to your question,
yes,
Brad,
sir.
Okay. So the $1.8 billion Trump slush fund.
Let's be right. Let's be accurate here.
Okay.
The 1776, which for obvious reasons, I wouldn't necessarily call it a slush fund, but let's just call it the $1776 billion fund. What are your thoughts?
The money that Trump looted from the U.S. Treasury to pay off his loyalists and reward people who stormed the Capitol and tried to overturn an election and assault hundreds of police officers. It is an egregious act of corruption, even by Donald Trump standards. And I know the Republicans in the U.S. Senate are standing up to this and realizing what an awful thing it is. And I hope that they put an end to this nonsense.
There is no subtleties with this president, but
yes,
it's a pretty smart strategy. I don't know how serious he is about actually getting it passed, but think about this. You're going to put something this controversial, the Democrats rush to criticize it, and then they find out they're drawn into debate of why it is applicable or why it is needed, and that debate happens to take them back to the weaponization of the department. You had any conservative C4 literally being audited, whereas counterparts on the left weren't. You had the leaking of tax returns. You had other things. There's not a whole lot of doubt that there wasn't bad behavior. And so I question, is it really about the fund, or is it about him doing something like this so So good-thinking Democrats like you, if you can be fooled, then pretty much anybody can, because you're smarter than most about anybody I know. But my point is this. In this debate he's creating, everybody's rushing to attack the slush fund, but the fact is it's going to force a debate about the IRS's past performance. And to that regard, I think it's a pretty clever move. And your connection on the other stuff, as appreciated as your narrative was, you can't use one thing that happened and connect it to everything else that happens. I understand that, but I don't see the correlation on this.
Well,
If
let me
this
jump.
draws attention to the weaponization of the Department of Justice, regardless of who does it, then maybe something good will come out of this.
Yeah, and I guess I find myself strangely in the middle on this issue, which typically the only thing in the middle of the road, right, are dead animals. But on this issue, I think that most reasonable people can agree under the Obama administration, certainly under the Biden administration, there was weaponization of the DOJ. If you applied for a not-for-profit status and had the word patriot in it, you would be rejected. You would the people who had companies with the word patriot in them had a higher degree of being audited than any other type of companies. And so we can agree on that. I think most people can.
I'm not aware of that.
Well, I can
I'm
give
proud
you
to be a patriot.
I am too, and yet because of that term, it was weaponized, and that was bad, right? And also, I agree that there were a large number of people on January 6th who were doing nothing more than just standing around, and yet the Biden DOJ identified them by facial recognition software, prosecuted them when they didn't break any glass, didn't break any tables. Now, I've been consistent on this all along. If you destroyed property, if you used a weapon, if you injured another person on January 6th, you should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. If you're standing around looking at what's going on and see a security guard opening the door to the Capitol building and you wander in, then you shouldn't have been prosecuted. But to put all of this in the context of a slush fund, so-called, I have problems with this because as an attorney, you have to have opposing parties on both sides of the litigation. And if Trump was suing the Department of Justice or the IRS and they reach a settlement, he controls the IRS. And so I have a problem with this type of settlement because it's beyond Congress. It violates, I think, the Constitution in terms of allocating money, and it creates a vague mechanism for who gets the money. Those are my issues.
Well, I do think it's right coming from a party who wants to give reparations and has given other kinds of these slush funds. Again and again, I think they gave $1 billion to the former gubernatorial candidate in Georgia for a charity that had just started. So it goes on both sides. I agree. Some of the financial things I don't get, but I do think it's smart politically that it causes a debate on something that Republicans had a concern on. I think probably some Democrats did too. And if it ends it, I agree with you, Chuck. It's a good thing.
Giving the president the discretion to use taxpayer money to reward his loyalists in this way is a terrible precedent. And I hope that
probably not a precedent.
Happen.
It's probably a continuation.
I would agree with that. I don't like the idea of it, but it's not the first time. But I don't know that my attitude is always two wrongs don't make a right.
Well,
if
Brad,
this is wrong, prior things are wrong, we shouldn't be duplicating it.
Sure. I mean, yeah, just because the other side did it is not a justification or
exactly.
reason. And as a lawyer, of course, you know that the criminals that were convicted for the January 6 riots in trying to overturn the election and storming the Capitol and assaulting police officers, they were found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law based on the evidence. Most of them pled guilty to the crimes with which they were charged. And they're not patriots. They're not heroes. They certainly deserve no taxpayer recompensation now based on what Trump's trying to do.
Here's the only place I'm going to disagree with you on this, Ted, and that's this. There were a lot of people who pled guilty who were just standing around. And they had to plead guilty because the idea of going against the federal government in a legal case is so daunting. It's so overpowering that there were people who pled guilty for being on the Capitol grounds that did nothing simply because they didn't have the financial resources to fight the government. Now,
if there's a case in which someone was convicted of a crime for which they were not guilty, I would certainly want that conviction to be overturned.
Well,
that should
and
never
Trump
happen.
did just that.
Yeah, Trump did that. He pardoned them.
Trump did just that with his
he pardoned everybody.
Well, he did, and I didn't like the whole pardon of everybody
Well,
either.
he wanted to be fair.
And especially,
You don't want to leave anybody
If
out.
I was a police officer, I'd be pretty upset at the president for pardoning all of those
Ted,
rioters.
You and I actually are the same in this. The respect for the rules and traditions of institutions and respect for those institutions was our generation, and it is no longer. And it's a really hard pill to take that anybody would have done or even stood around while it happened, and so many things. The weaponization of the IRS, the anger that's out there, the fact that we're disregarding institutions. It's a different world. It's sad.
It is. I just didn't like it that the Capitol Hill shaman guy, the guy that was wearing the Viking helmet, that guy got pardoned. I thought, just for wearing that get-up, you ought to go to jail. He shouldn't have been pardoned. But, hey, we're going to carry this over to the next segment, but I'm going to change the topic slightly. And coming up after the break, we're going to break down and talk about this report that was just released by the Democrats talking about their post-mortem analysis of the 2024 election, what went wrong, what went right, although I don't know that anything in there was listed as going right. But we're going to talk about that next. Of course, we've got Ted House, David Barklage, Brad Young in on the Reardon Roundtable. Stick around. We'll be back right after this on St. Louis Conservative, 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Good afternoon to you. Well, we've got some volume out there just as we begin this holiday weekend, but it's not bad. 70 westbound actually looks pretty good until you get past 79. A slow pocket or two out through Wentzville. There is a parking lot jam on westbound 370 to a spot just a little bit west of 141. That's road work and an accident reported. Now, 6440, it's just moderate volume, mainly Clayton Skinker out through McCausland, and then Lake St. Louis Boulevard out through the 70 split. 44 westbound, a little extra volume, especially between Bowles and just past 141. Now, we look fine on the bridges downtown, but eastbound 64, there's a slow go, and it's mainly at 255. That, of course, mainly due to road work. And other than that, we look pretty good, at least on the Illinois side as well at this hour. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
Honey, I found the one.
Oh, I thought I was the one.
Oh, you are, but this one's certified, background check, shows up on time, and can install all the ceiling fans.
Heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Trusted pros who do it right.
Accidents happen quickly, especially in rideshares. Whether you're the driver or the passenger, injuries can leave you with more than just physical pain. They bring uncertainty, stress, and questions about what to do next. At Kaufman Townsley, we understand the challenges you face. We're here to help you navigate the tough time, fight for what you deserve, and get you the support you need. Kaufman Townsley, real people, real results. Call 314-777-7777.
Ready for a fresh start? The Excel Center in St. Louis is here to help you earn your high school diploma, tuition-free and on your schedule. With convenient locations in downtown St. Louis and Florissant, you can learn at your pace, with support every step of the way. Need childcare, career coaching, flexible classes? We've got you covered. Registration is now open. Don't wait to take the next step toward your future. Visit excel.mersgoodwill.org to enroll today. This community message has been brought to you by Together Credit Union.
Your home is your sanctuary. Get the peace of mind you deserve with a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from Generator Supercenter. They're the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. With expert installation and 24-hour monitoring, Generator Supercenter won't leave you in the dark. Financing is available. Take control of your power today with Generator Supercenter of St. Louis. Call 314-499-2020. That's 499-2020 or GeneratorSuperCenterofStLouis.com. That's GeneratorSuperCenterofStLouis.com.
You know, your roof takes a lot of abuse, and it protects you and your family, and it's time to show it some love. Mark Cox here, recommending my friend Curtis Carell and the Carell Roofing Company to come over and give you a free roof inspection. If you haven't had this done, this is the time. They are getting roofs approved for insurance claims because of the recent hailstorms. You know, if you haven't had your roof inspected in the last 5 years or so, you need to let Curtis get up there and look for leaks and damage. They've had hail this spring that has caused damage to roofs. Any hail over 1 inch to 1.5 inches can cause that. At Corel Roofing, they will not overcommit. They pay attention to detail. They did a great job on my roof, and I've got a lot of good friends who've hired Corel Roofing and bragged to me about what a great job they did. Just call them at 314-222-9529. Order your roof inspection today and tell them Mark Cox sent you. It's CorelRoofingCo.com. It's time for you to get to know my friends at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield, where luxury meets comfort. Mark Cox here. They have a great selection of rare bourbons, whiskeys, craft cocktails, anything you like to drink, cold beer, premium hand-rolled cigars from the finest makers in the world, even private lockers that are available if you choose to. Perfect for date nights or business meetings, and live music every Friday night. Family owned and operated. Check them out in Chesterfield at the District. It's litstl.com.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. We're in the midst of a Reardonless roundtable this afternoon. Thanks for hanging out with us. Brad Young here, joined by Ted House, David Barklage. And as I mentioned before the break, it was just came out this week. It's like 197 some odd page post-mortem that the Democrat Party came out with to analyze why they did so poorly in 2024. Just to hit a couple of the big topics, the conclusions reached was there was a voter disconnect because of various, I think, framing issues, but we'll get into that in a minute. But there was a disconnect between the Democrat Party and voters, particularly non-college, rural, and working-class groups. Also, that whole Biden-Harris transition debacle, that was an issue. Economic messaging failures. Immigration vulnerability was one of the ones that the Democrats thought they were vulnerable on. And a messaging gap basically means that they were, according to the Democrat Party, they were allowing the Republicans to define them as being out of touch, and the Democrats struggled to overcome that. David Barklage, what are your thoughts on that post-mortem from the Democrats?
Well, one, they did it. I'm not aware the Republicans have.
Good point.
And so that's a little concerning. Two, I've found in our business that having someone go through a robust primary makes them normally a stronger general election candidate. And at that level, maybe sometimes you forget it. But my understanding was that they didn't have the option of a primary because they weren't be able to control the outcome, and the outcome was probably even more problematic for them. I think they had a lot of good points, and I think they missed a couple things. But again, at least they're trying to sort of self-correct. And so to that regard, I'm not going to be overcritical.
Ted?
Well, I have not read the 197 pages of the report, but based on what I understand, no, it's good to look back for a while and see what you can do better. Obviously, I prefer always to look ahead and look forward. But how does a not to make everything about Donald Trump, but how does a person like Donald Trump get elected president of the United States? If you allow that to happen, you've made some serious mistakes. True. And so. One thing the report does not cover very well is something David mentioned, which is the fact that Joe Biden hung on until, June?
Yes.
When he decided that he was going to withdraw and not run. I mean, obviously that in hindsight, and probably at the time, if people were being honest with themselves, was a terrible idea.
Yes.
He should never have run for re-election. I mean,
Right.
He had a reasonably successful term. The Infrastructure Act, we're reaping the benefits of that now. It was a great piece of legislation. The CHIPS Act is one of the most important pieces of legislation for our national security that we've had in decades. He was starting to get inflation under control from the post-pandemic surge in demand. And he could have just gone out gracefully and said, "Hey, we had a good run, and now I'm going to turn it over. I'm 81 years old, and I'm going to turn it over to somebody else." But he failed to do that and left Kamala Harris and everybody else in a terrible position.
That's right. But David, I want to ask you this, because for me, we can parcel out all of the minutia of issues in a campaign that wonks like us love to dive into, right? But to me, the overarching problem with 2024, I think, can be boiled down to this. We were told, when I say we, I mean the public, we were told by the president, by the White House, by his whole communications corps, that this president could do backflips while doing trigonometry in his head, that he could calculate pi to the last digit. And then all of a sudden, when there was that one debate with Trump, the public realized, and I know there may have been some health issues going on, but the public realized that they've been lied to, that this president couldn't do all those things and he wasn't fit. And so I think the public felt lied to when all of a sudden at the last minute, after saying, I'm in this race, I'm running for re-election, I'm not going to bow out, and then he was forced to bow out, didn't that kind of pull the rug out on the Democrat Party by basically saying we've been lying to you for a period of time?
Well, and I think all of us here would hope that that would be the case from the standpoint that if you lie about something so critical as the health of a president, that there should be a cost to it for either party. And to that regard, I think there were questions of fitness that were glossed over, and you would hate to see that would go unpunished. And to that regard, there is a generational change in American politics that happens about every 40 years. It happened last time in the 60s where you had a radical politics sort of come forth, protest everything else. This isn't too much different. I think the other heavy weighing thing was they became all about the culture wars. And to that regard, you can only push cultural change so quickly because you might have control, but you push it too far outside of the comfort level of the average voter, Democrat or Republican or Independent, and they're going to revolt. Cultural change is something that always needs to be done slowly, whether it is civil rights or whether it is, whatever it might be. And from DEI to all the things they put in, no matter if you agree or disagree, you just can't do those things too quickly. I think that's another understated problem that the Democrats had on top of
Ted, I want to actually give you a question on this, picking up on what David just said. But whenever the Democrats are perceived as being a party of the special interests, whether that be the gay lobby, the trans lobby, the immigrant lobby, whatever lobby you want to put in, instead of focusing on people or Americans as a whole, isn't that a recipe for disaster, not only in 2024, but even potentially in the future?
Well, that's the picture that Republicans like to paint. We wouldn't have a middle class in America if it weren't for the Democratic Party, if it weren't for the efforts to bring about social and economic justice. You can call those cultural changes, or you can call it whatever you want. But here's the biggest problem that the Democratic Party has, in my opinion. And this is a part of the postmortem, too, I think. And it is that they have not figured out the messaging in order to keep voters from voting against their own interest. There is no reason in the world that a middle-class voter who believes in the U.S. Constitution and believes in a sense of economic justice should be voting for Republicans that pass tax increases that favor the wealthy at the expense of the middle class and the poor. And yet somehow we do not do a good job with that messaging. The Republicans have used the culture wars. Many of them are just fake issues or non-issues or whatever. There's transgender student they're taking over the girls' swim team at the local high school or whatever all this nonsense.
I wouldn't use that as an example, but
that's
true.
I mean, I know a lot of Republican campaigns. Forget about the economy. Forget about affordability. Forget about access to health care. It's all about there's a transgender student in Missouri somewhere on a softball team, and that's their whole campaign. And that works for them, but it's very unfortunate because we find then that we're diverted from the real issues of healthcare and the economy and the affordability and the price of gasoline today and things that really make a difference for people's lives. And the Democratic Party needs to do a better job with messaging. I mean, Republicans tried to destroy labor unions with right to work. What's more important for a sound economy and a strong middle class than strong labor unions that support working families?
I got to say one thing. I'm not going to refute him. Not because I disagree, but because I respect Ted a great deal. I mean, a lot. But I will say this, is that it is different actually being on stage with a liberal versus progressive. And so
Completely
you're thoughtful.
Yes.
I don't agree a whole lot, but Ted, as usual, you were thoughtful, you are educated, you understand the issues, and I just wanted to sort of note that to people that you are the last of a liberal, of the old style liberal soldiers.
You know, David, we've been friends a long time, and it's really hard to argue with you when you keep complimenting me. So.
I couldn't have said it better myself, gentlemen. Hey, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about gas prices, and not just about what's causing them. I think we know what that is, but about how that will impact the November election and the midterms. And, who's the public going to blame for these high prices? We're going to talk about that next here on the Reardonless Roundtable. Brad Young sitting in for Mark today. We'll be back right after this on 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We just had a report of an accident, Tesson Ferry at Concord School Road. And let's see, southbound 55 looks pretty good in the city. But expect a slow go as you head down toward the Barnhart area. In fact, just south of there, through that construction zone, south of Highway Z even, some slow pockets headed down toward Festus. And it's all in the construction zone. Now, we do have some volume on southbound 270. Right now, it's mainly at Olive and then in pockets south of 6440 through Doherty Ferry. 44 westbound, fine in the city and Kirkwood and Webster, but a little slow in the Valley Park area, especially just west of 270 to just past 141. Southbound 270 slowing at 70. And we've got a little bit of volume on northbound 170, just north of Olive. 370 is jammed at 141. That, of course, is road work, but also a report of an accident. And people headed out of town for the holiday weekend. It's not too bad yet. 70, though, is moderate volume in pockets. Lake St. Louis Boulevard out through Wentzville. And the 64 jam is back near Winghaven. This report is brought to you by Lakeside Renovation and Design. For over 25 years, they've been St. Louis's trusted choice for transforming homes inside and out. From windows to bathrooms and outdoor spaces, they give you quality craftsmanship backed by lifetime warranties. Visit lakesiderd.com to start your dream project today. I'm Sue Thomas with Traffic, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
According to MasterCard, nearly half of small businesses have been a victim of a cyber attack. As cybercrime escalates, ThrottleNet is calling on businesses to strengthen their security posture by taking a free online IT security audit right from your desk. This 3-minute online assessment provides an immediate score to see security gaps and vulnerabilities in your network. For 26 years, ThrottleNet has supported your business IT everything right here in St. Louis. In fact, no client of ThrottleNet has ever paid a ransom. So visit throttlenet.com/971 to take the free assessment today.
I'm Dr. Nick Barnes at Health From Within Family Chiropractic in Rock Hill. At Health From Within, our mission is to transform the way you manage your health by bringing you the truth about health and healing. We use proven techniques to remove interference in the nervous system and maximize health naturally, without drugs or surgery. Connect with me at healthfromwithinstl.com and join me for Maximize Living on this station every Sunday at 8 a.m. or download the Maximize Living podcast, healthfromwithinstl.com.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, Dad, what causes drains to clog?
Grease, hair, soap scum, and tree roots.
Tree roots?
This town has old pipes and big trees. They find each other.
They grow inside pipes?
They bust into pipes.
Whoa.
Once they're in, the water stops flowing.
Can we fix it?
The big green grasser machine can fix any clog.
Green is always grasser at grasserhomeservices.com.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. We recently received a call from an injured person. The insurance company had offered them $11,000. We took the case over and got more than $2 million in court. Morgan & Morgan.
Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, you're not alone. Most importantly, you don't have to live with it. Paramount Men's Medical Center restores men's sex lives in just one visit. Their painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, even when Viagra and Cialis don't work. Here's Dr. Simovitz, specialist in men's health.
Paramount Men's Medical Center's painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, regardless of age or medical history. 98% of patients see instant results right in the office.
Men are now lasting longer than they ever imagined. And the best part, at Paramount Men's Medical Center, your consultation and first treatment are free. Qualified patients even get their testosterone checked free. Call 314-887-4333. 314-887-4333. Take control of your sex life. Call now. 314-887-4333.
If you're considering buying or selling a home, when it comes to choosing the Gelman team with eXp Realty, numbers don't lie. Over 1,500 Google and Zillow 5-star reviews, nearly 6,000 homes, and $2.5 billion in real estate sold. 314-336-1991, thegelmanteam.com.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
The time is 3:33. This time check sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing.
From High Ridge to Pontoon Beach, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show, the Reardonless Roundtable today. Brad Young sitting in, along with Ted House and David Barklage. And as I hinted at before the last break, gas prices. Everybody knows they're high. We see them all the time, not only when we fill up our gas tank, but when we're driving down the road. We see all the signs. It screams at us how high the prices are. And the question, and Ted, I want to start with you on this. Who do we blame? I mean, when voters come to the ballot box in November, who's going to bear the brunt of the blame for high gas prices?
Well, I just filled up my car as I was driving to the studio here.
I'm very sorry.
From St. Charles this afternoon. For years we've said the president of the United States really has very little to do with the price of gasoline.
Correct.
It's a global market, and there are world economic factors, and you really can't blame the president when you've got gas prices. Obviously, the pandemic created a pent-up demand, and you were going to have high prices coming out of COVID. And so, I think in many ways the high gas prices that we saw during parts of the Biden administration were not his fault. I mean, obviously, if he could do something about it, he would. Now, eventually they came down, But the exception to that, though, is what we have right now, because everybody knows that we're paying $4.19 a gallon because Donald Trump decided to start a war in Iran without congressional approval, in violation of Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. And so that's why we have obviously, with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and the interruption in the international supply of energy, that's why we have the high prices. Will this impact the November election? Who knows? I mean, I would caution Democrats to not be overconfident about what's going to happen in November, as David and I were visiting about earlier. There's a whole lot that can happen between now and then.
There will be a lot that happens.
Thank you for ending with something we agree on, because I got two, I think, very important points. One is I agree on everything. You had me up to the point of
yeah, I was same place.
We can't blame the other guy, but we can blame Trump. But here's the thing: if Iran ever gets nuclear weapons,
yes,
we're talking about end of days. We're talking about a radicalized regime that for 49 years has not been punished. That is the backbone of terrorism in modern the world. That has been supplying drones and everything in Ukraine. That has terrorist networks everywhere that backed and funded attacks on Israel, but it's not about Israel. At some point, someone had to stand up, and I think there's been 47 major terrorist incidents of loss of life of Americans, as many as hundreds at a time, and we've never punished these assholes. I don't know if I can say that on air. Sorry.
Yeah, that's why we got a delay here.
But anyway, and do you know that the American embassy has only been overrun 3 times? And do you know who was responsible for all 3 times? Iran. Twice in Iran and once in Pakistan.
David, let me cut you off here, because you're right, but all of those issues don't necessarily justify going into a military operation until we get to the nuclear issue. And if you look at statements, I've looked at them even as recently as yesterday, that you had Hillary Clinton, when she was running for president, saying, if Iran is ever on the verge of obtaining nuclear weapons, we will directly institute military force. We had Obama, who said the same thing. We had Biden, who said the same thing. None of them did it. And we know even today that the Iranians have uranium that's processed to the level to make nuclear weapons because they've said that. They've said, we won't give up our uranium. So, but is that, and I guess, Ted, I want to turn this to you. That is a high, lofty issue.
It's too late. You do not
That's correct.
want to be in a window when you attack someone not knowing if they've got one operational.
Right. That's where we are with North Korea right now. They have nuclear weapons because administrations allowed them to get it. But here's the question, though, Ted, is that in November, most voters don't have lofty, big ideas looking at things from 30,000 feet. They just look at, it's costing me, I'm going broke every time I fill up my gas tank. Is that then going to drive voters in November to vote against Republicans whom they perceive to be responsible for high gas prices?
Let's be clear, nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
Right. But nobody's took any steps to do anything about it until President Trump did.
And Trump has never made a case that there was an imminent threat that allowed for the bypassing.
But I don't think you can wait for an imminent threat. But there was an imminent threat
use
of
American
terrorism.
military force to do what he did.
The
and start
Iranians
war.
told Steve Witkoff directly during the pre-war negotiations that within 30 days we can have nuclear weapons. They told him that. Steve Witkoff has repeatedly said that. And so if they were within 30 days of having a nuclear weapon, and even today the Iranian administration has admitted that they have fissionable material sufficient to make nuclear weapons, that should be the red line.
We were told
it?
by President Trump that he obliterated their ability to manufacture nuclear weapons last June during the
and that clearly wasn't true.
So that most everything Donald Trump says is not true.
But things like that, Ted.
Let me answer your question, though, about the election.
Yes.
The election's going to be about the economy. It's going to be about affordability. It's going to be about the cost of living. And it's important for leaders like us to remind people about the importance of national security and making sure that the most dangerous terrorist regime in the world, Iran, does not have a nuclear weapon. But I haven't seen the evidence that it was imminent that would justify the violation of the Constitution when it says that Congress declares war and should authorize the military.
I have a fundamental objection to the Democrats' position on this, outside of Ted, is that all I have heard is one excuse after another of why it wasn't the right time. Well, we need to wait for this. We need to wait for that. Well, we've been waiting for 49 years, and it's only gotten worse. We saw what happened in Israel. We have watched as they have funded the terrorist network. My opinion is every day we're dropping a bomb on that country is a good day because they don't then have the resources or the attention to go out and to murder innocent people by the terrorists they fund or develop nuclear weapons. And to that regard, all the other things, I think that the ultimate deal is what Ted said. We don't want them to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want them to continue to fund terrorism. And so we're acting on it. Everything else is incidental.
Hey, I want to make sure I squeeze in one more topic in this segment. So even though I think we could carry this on for quite some time, I want to switch to this because you guys are both have your fingers on the pulse of what's going on in Missouri when it comes to this proposal to phase out the state income tax. That's now a proposal. It's on the board for this November. David, I want to start with you on this because is this a good idea? I mean, if we phase out the income tax, do the benefits outweigh the detriments? And what are your views on that?
So, one, our tax code, our revenue, is in dire need of modernization. So let's take off for a minute one of the goals to eliminate income tax. AI, within months or a year and a half, may reduce income taxes by 30 or 40%.
How can AI reduce income
because
taxes?
They're replacing workers and jobs are going away. And to that, and it's people do not realize how fundamentally, I mean, it is happening quick. To that regard, income taxes is a major part of our budget. It is based on 75,000 pages of IRS code, which means it's inherently regressive. and that the wealthiest don't pay taxes because that's what the Missouri system is based on. We put over $1 billion out every year on corporate welfare, which may or may not be a good use. We are taxing 30% of the economy, 70%. People don't buy stuff anymore. You rent cars, you rent software, all these things. The internet, we are not fairly taxing. We've seen what it's done to brick and mortar buildings, but more importantly, the number of transactions and the kind of transactions on the internet, if you just do that, if you go after sin taxes, which Missouri has not really addressed. We weren't taxing gray market. We're barely taxing marijuana, liquor, cigarettes, all those things which are choices, luxury services, all those things would be preferable because one, taxes on services are much more stable in terms of funding our institutions than is income, and an overreliance on income tax is a dangerous thing. Ted, as a senator, had to go through in a very brave way to have to make budget cuts time and time again when you had dips in the economy because of how we have our structure. So it's a need. The governor's taking the right step. I think, unfortunately, people are getting all focused on can you find enough other taxes to fairly do the other? I think there's structural issues because they haven't criticized and really spelled out to the average voter how bad our current system is.
Ted?
So Missouri's tax structure is a disaster. In the state of Missouri, the less wealth you have, the higher percentage of your wealth you pay in taxes. It's inversely proportional. It is horribly regressive. And Kehoe's plan and what the legislature did this year makes it far worse. Eliminating the income tax, which is one of the most justifiable progressive taxes that there can be, at least in terms of justice and fairness. Eliminating the income tax in Missouri would actually result in a tax increase for 80% of Missourians because of the things David was talking about with regard to they want us to just trust them, vote for this and trust me. They're going to have to raise sales tax to astronomical levels, use taxes on services that Missourians aren't used to paying. That's going to hurt the poor. That's going to really hurt the middle class. And it's a terrible move, and I don't know why the Republicans decided to do this. I can't imagine that if people will look at the numbers that they'd want to vote for this when it's on the ballot.
Well, here's my take, and then right before we have to go to a break here, but the debate always focuses on can we afford a tax cut or how do we raise taxes in other areas? What I think the debate should be focused on is how do we live within our means? In other words, how can we reduce the size of government, reduce the size of bureaucracy so that we don't need to tax our citizens as much to fund a state government? Unfortunately, that's not where the debate is focused. I'll have to save that, though, for another day. Brad Young sitting in for Mark Reardon. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the whole issue of the police board. And should the police board be able to order and tell the city of St. Louis to increase the pay for police, to increase their spending on police, and where that issue is going in litigation? Brad Young sitting in for Mark Reardon. Stick around. We'll be right back on 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Accident reported Tesson Ferry at Concord School Road, and an accident northbound 170 approaching Page. They've got the right side blocked there, so a little bit of a delay going on in that area. Now, if you're westbound on 70 out of downtown, it looks great, but it really starts to slow as you head past Lake St. Louis Boulevard and out through Wentzville, and then things open up. 370 is better. It was a stall in the construction zone that caused a delay, headed for 141. 6440 westbound, moderate volume at Clayton Skinker, and then slowing again, approaching Highway N out through the 70 split. Now, southbound 270, it's mainly moderate volume, 64 down through Doherty Ferry, and westbound 44 is slow on either side of 141. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
97.1 FM Talk is proud to support the Guns N' Hoses First Responders Soccer Cup, May 30th at Worldwide Technology Soccer Park. Law enforcement battles firefighters and EMTs on the field, all for a great cause. 971talk.com/events. I've known the team at MasterCars Inc. in Granite City for more than a decade now. Alex and Gary Rosenberger, they're a father and son team. They do great work. And I'm going to give you like a real-life review right now from my former producer. We call him Producer Emeritus David Klein, because he's got a big family. He's got twins. He's got 2 other boys. One of those was a surprise, by the way. I'm familiar with that. But Dave needs big family vehicles, and he went to MasterCars because, look, those big SUVs are expensive. But if you go to Alex and Gary and say, look, this is what I'm looking for. I like this many miles on it. Here's my price, limits or whatever. They're going to find something for you. Here's what Dave said to me just a couple of days ago. I got to thank you again for MasterCars. They came through. They found me a great Suburban. It's being shipped to them in a week. That's what happens. They can get you financed just like any other auto dealer, but you're going to get great, high-quality used cars, new car caliber. MasterCars Inc., they're in Granite City. Check out the website. They have a lot of fun stuff on there. But again, the way that Dave used them, he had them find him a car. To get right here to St. Louis, it's a great deal. MasterCarsInc.com.
What if every time you spent money, you saved money too? With Achieve It Checking from Together Credit Union, you can do just that. Every debit card purchase is rounded up to the nearest dollar, and the spare change goes right into your savings. And here's the best part. Together Credit Union boosts your progress by matching qualifying savings up to $8 a month. It's a free checking account that helps you achieve more automatically. Learn more, or better yet, enroll today at togethercu.org. Together Credit Union. Federally insured by NCUA.
When it comes to family law, a lot has changed in recent years, so assumptions can be costly. If you see or sense a change coming in your family life that could have legal implications, it's important to know where you stand. Getting good legal advice early is never a bad idea. I'm Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. If you or anyone you know is facing a family law issue, start with a consultation. Visit CordellCordell.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood, St. Louis.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
ZipRecruiter. Don't let tax refund worries hold you back. File now with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They'll find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Welcome back to the Reardonless Roundtable here on 97.1 FM Talk. Brad Young sitting in today. Thanks for hanging out with us. In the time we have left, I want to throw this out here for the Reardonless Roundtable. Of course, Ted House, David Barklage. The issue is in Missouri, that the Missouri legislature created, and actually it was voted on by the people in 2024, to create a police board. And this police board now is telling the city of St. Louis that it has to spend an additional $60 to $70 million on policing in the city. Mayor Kara Spencer has fought back, filed a lawsuit stating that the police board can't do that. And I want to go to Ted House. And what are your thoughts here on this concept that a police board that's mainly appointed by the governor, with 1 or 2 exceptions, is telling the city of St. Louis how to spend its money? Everybody knows and agrees that the biggest issue in the city of St. Louis is crime. It affects everything. Is this a good idea or a bad idea?
Crime does affect everything, as does the quality of the public schools. Brad, ordinarily I would say that the city every city should be responsible for its own funding of its law enforcement to keep our families safe and secure. But you have that unusual situation in Missouri where the legislature is controlling, the state controls the police department to a large degree. And so I think there's a justifiable argument that can be made that the state should provide some of the funding for that. I don't want to come to St. Louis City and tell folks in St. Louis how to govern themselves. But I'll tell you what, if we don't get crime under control,
yes,
there's not going to be much left. And I was a judge in St. Charles County for 18 years, the sentences that we would give for crimes in St. Charles were often, almost always, considerably harsher than for the same offenses. Now every offense is different, but typically the same offense statistically as defendants would receive in the city of St. Louis. And until you crack down on crime and have consequences for dangerous criminal behavior, you're never going to be able to bring about the reforms that we need.
I was not a fan of returning the police back to the state, but what I give credence to is that there was a period of time, a decade, that it was handed back by considerable effort of people to let the city control it. And the answer of the city was, we're going to defund the police. We're going to reduce officers. We're not going to, challenge the union. We're not going to put more people in the street. And to that regard, the city is the reason that the state stepped in. And I agree with Ted about local control, but here's the thing. St. Louis, in the last few years, is no longer capable of self-correcting. And crime in St. Louis isn't in St. Louis. It is in the whole region. Just as the whole region needs to help St. Louis succeed because it affects them, crime has decimated the entire region, emanating in many cases out of St. Louis's reluctance to prosecute. So my belief is this, that the reluctance of the city for years to fund properly the police has resulted in a deficit that now they're being asked to solve, and they may not want to solve it. It may not be the best time to solve it, but it is probably their own making. No, not probably. It is their own making, and to the regard that they're screaming as loud as they are, it's not very sincere. They caused it. They caused the police to go away, and maybe, Ted, you're right, that the state might be in a better position. They only got $1 billion shortfall or whatever, but might be in a better position to help because St. Louis is important. But this was caused by St. Louis.
Well, the bottom line, gentlemen, is I think we're all in agreement on this, but the bottom line is that the city of St. Louis, like it or not, is the heartbeat of the state of Missouri. And if it gets decimated by crime and businesses relocate outside of the state, it's going to impact the entire state. Guys, I want to thank you so much for being with us. Of course, Ted House, David Barklage, thanks for hanging out with us here on the Reardon Roundtable. Very quick, and I won't hold it against you because nobody's listening, right? Is this better when I'm on or when Mark's on?
Well, I've been here with Mike Elam, so
Oh, with Mike Elam. Well, okay.
No, we appreciate it, Brad. Thank you so much.
That's like comparing two
David,
of the best actors.
Sorry, we got to go, my friend. Hey, we'll be back right after this with more Brad Young on the Mark Reardon Show.
Thanks.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Northbound 170, and this is just south of Page. They've got the right lanes blocked, and traffic is stacked up behind it. Right now, it's back to Delmar. Now, that is by far the worst of it. Westbound 70, just a little bit slow around Cave Springs, and then Highway A out through Wentzville. 64 isn't that bad. We had some moderate volume around Hampton, Clayton Skinker, and then it opens up. There is a slow go west of Winghaven out through the 70 split. We've got westbound 44 slowing from Bowles to just past 141, and southbound 270 is slowing, especially around Manchester. If you're headed into Illinois, we're fine on the bridges. 70 eastbound, though, a little slow at 64. And eastbound 64 is pretty slow around 255. That's due to road work there. This report brought to you by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. Call them for their 26-point tune-up. It's one price for up to 3 garage doors and openers. Always look for the genuine, the original red ribbon. You can schedule online if you don't want to call at overheaddoorstlewis.com. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, I love the team at Game Day Men's Health here in St. Louis. Matt Lawrence runs the ship out in Chesterfield and in O'Fallon, Missouri. He's got a great clinic. They're very proud of it. Game Day, maybe a little bit newer to the area, but man, they are passing by all the other clinics that they compete with because there's a game day difference. That's what we call it. I want you to book an appointment. It's an hour-long appointment. It's free. You get your blood work drawn. They'll have those results back in 20 minutes, and then they come up with a plan. Now, maybe you are a little vitamin deficient. Maybe you're looking at GLP-1s and medical weight loss. Maybe it's hair loss or something along those lines. They handle that, too. Recovering from sports injuries as we get a little older. And, of course, there's testosterone replacement therapy, so they can handle all that in a clinic that is really, really top-notch and world-class. They have their own pharmacy on site. That really helps as well. GameDayMen'sHealth.com, Chesterfield and O'Fallon. Book an appointment today. Game Day Men's Health. And tell them that I sent you in. GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program may only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it could end your debt nightmare and save you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. For free information and to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, simply go online and visit DRA.com or call 800-535-1582. 800-535-1582. Again, that's 800-535-1582.
Gentlemen, Mark Cox here. When's the last time you actually felt like yourself? Victory Men's Health specializes in hormone optimization, sexual health, weight loss, and longevity. It's built for everyday men who just want to feel better and perform their best. They already have offices in Town and Country, Sunset Hills, O'Fallon, Missouri, and O'Fallon, Illinois. They're about to open a new location in Glen Carbon very soon. It's a higher standard of care just waiting for you. Learn more at victorymenshealth.com.
Hey, St. Louis, this is Brian Kilmeade. You know, I always have a great time when I visit you guys, and I'm coming back this November. So join me, Brian Kilmeade, by getting tickets for the show at The Factory at 971talk.com/events.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. That's what President Trump just said about the conflict with Iran, predicting oil prices will tumble when it does end during a speech north of New York City, focusing on the economy and saying Democrat policies are bad for business.
They are Democrats. You know why? Because their policies are dumb. Their policies are very dumb.
Adding they voted against the tax cuts and everything else in his big, beautiful bill.
And if they get in, you're going to have open borders again. You're going to have millions of people coming in.
The president in Suffern, New York, while Democrats argue people are suffering under the president's policies.
Memorial Day might be the kickoff for the summer, but under this administration and Donald Trump, it's a kick to the you-know-what in your family budget.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer rejecting Trump claims of progress. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard will step down at the end of June, announcing today that her husband has been diagnosed with a rare form of bone cancer, the fourth cabinet member to leave during the second Trump term. The criminal case against Salvadoran immigrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia is tossed out by a federal judge in Tennessee.
U.S. District Judge Waverly Crenshaw granted Abrego Garcia's dismissal motion for what he and his lawyers claimed was a selective, vindictive prosecution. The defendant was accused by the DOJ in a human smuggling case. He was at one point deported to his native El Salvador last year, but the courts ordered the federal government to facilitate his return. Judge Crenshaw, in his study of the evidence, said if Abrego Garcia had not successfully challenged the deportation, the prosecution he threw out would not have been brought.
Fox's Gernal Scott. The government says Abrego Garcia entered the U.S. illegally and still wants to deport him to a third-party country. America is listening to Fox News.
When did watching TV go from a way to relax to a complicated chore? Well, if you're sick of huge cable bills or endlessly searching for the show everyone's talking about, then welcome to Philo. Philo's the streaming service that respects both your time and your wallet, without needing to cut the stuff you actually love to watch. This means live TV from more than 70 channels like Hallmark, History, A&E, and Lifetime, plus a huge library of blockbuster movies and classic shows, and an easy-to-use unlimited DVR that lets you save anything you want and skip all the ads when you watch. The best part? You get all this for just $25 a month when you sign up at Philo.tv. No hidden fees, no long contracts, just a genuinely great deal. And new users can try it completely free for 7 days. So head to Philo.tv, that's PHILO.tv, and experience a better way to TV. Subscriptions auto-renew at monthly rate plus applicable taxes. Cancel anytime. See terms at Philo.tv.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
There'll be a couple of spotty light rain showers around up through about 8 or 9 o'clock this evening. Clouds dominate this evening and all night long. 59 degrees. On Saturday, mix of clouds and sunshine, nothing more than a spot thunder shower. 80 degrees, best chance for rain. And Saturday night, especially late Saturday night, with scattered shower, a couple of thunder showers, 62. A couple of spotty showers here and there on Sunday, otherwise partly sunny and 80. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Mark.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in today. I've spent this entire break doing nothing but reading all of your texts, both at the text line. If you want to text in, that would be great. Our text line, 314-241-9797. That's 314-241-9797. Or if you want to join us with the live stream on YouTube, just go to YouTube, put in Mark Reardon Show Live, and you can be a part of the show. Now, I'm trying to respond to some of these. It's kind of hard. I'm getting carpal tunnel. I wonder if I could file a work comp claim against 97.1 FM Talk because I get carpal tunnel from responding to all of your texts. We'll have to see about that. But I appreciate you being part of the show. Continue to do it. I love getting feedback and love hearing your thoughts. I ran across an article this week that made me think, and I wanted to talk about it here today because it was an op-ed piece in Reason magazine. And it really generated this question. When politicians say they want to tax the rich, are they really talking about tax policy? Now, that question may not make sense, but are they wanting to talk about tax policy, or are they really getting to something even deeper? Because as this debate gets more heated from the AOCs, from the Elizabeth Warrens, from the Bernie Sanders, from the Mamdamis, from the mayor in Seattle, we're getting more and more of these politicians that champion this tax the rich thing. But I used to think it was talking about tax policy, but now I'm not so sure. And here's where it all really came together. You remember that Met Gala? It was a couple of weeks ago where everybody shows up, they dress up. The progressive lib people that show up, dress like peacocks and goobers, and then the other people put on tuxes and really nice gowns. So, at least for the progressives, the women could be wearing suits, tuxedos, or dresses. You never know until they show up, right? So, but what was interesting is this: the tone. Everyone talked about when they were being interviewed on the red carpet. They were talking about not tax policy, but something that if you are a rich person in this country, it's not that you should just be taxed more, which I vehemently disagree with, but that it's that you're evil. And to me, catch that difference. So it's moved beyond a conversation of how do we generate revenue to fund this country to a position that says if you have wealth in this country, you're evil. If you have wealth in this country, that you are a bad person. And listen, Elizabeth Warren criticized Jeff Bezos over his luxury spending, over his wealth, and AOC. I don't know if she ever attended an economics class in her life, because she said, essentially, I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have her quote in front of me, but she said, get this, that if you become a millionaire or a billionaire, you didn't earn it. You exploited it. You got it by exploiting others. And that shocked me, because even if you think about Amazon, right? Jeff Bezos is everyone's favorite James Bond villain, right? He can have his own rockets. He can go into space. He's basically one cat away from being a James Bond villain. That's fine. But is he evil? I don't think so. And let me tell you why. Because right now, his company employs almost 2 million people nationwide. Now, one could say, well, he's a disruptor company and other people have lost their jobs. That's right. That's what disruptions do. When car companies came into existence, everyone that made a horse and buggy, they lost their jobs. Was that a bad thing for our country? No, it was not. And I don't think that Amazon is inherently bad for our country, particularly when you've got 2 million people working there. I'm not a big fan of Amazon. I'm not a big fan of Bezos. But I reject this idea that we've now not just taxed the rich to have a better tax policy, but we're going to label them as being evil. And I guess that's where the conservative argument comes into play here, because I think there's a major difference between debating tax rates and demonizing economic success. I mean, think about this. If you demonize success, I had this debate over on KMOX a couple of weeks ago on a tax debate with someone over there. And the idea is that, well, the rich aren't paying their fair share is what I kept hearing. And my response to that was, okay, tell me, what's the fair share? Give me a number. Of course, the person couldn't do that. And that gets to the heart of this whole issue about taxing the rich. Because if the rich said, okay, or if the progressives, said, okay, we think that the rich people in this country ought to pay 30% of their income. Of course, they wouldn't say that. They would say a lot higher. But whatever that number is, that number, then if people could meet that tax number, then by their very definition, the rich would not be evil. So see, that's why you're never going to get the wealthy, or rather the progressives, to give you that number as to what is a fair share. They're never going to do it. Think about this. Go back in the 1960s. What's the first thing that John F. Kennedy did when he became president? One of the very first things he did was to argue for the lowering of the federal tax rate. Yes, that's right. The only Democrat in history that argued for a lower tax rate. Why? Because his family inherently understood how economics work. And at the time in the 1960s, the highest marginal tax rate was 70%, 70%. If you were very wealthy in this country, you paid up to 70% of your income in taxes. Well, who's going to do anything when you get to keep $3 out of every $10 you make? And that doesn't even include state taxes. That doesn't include FICA. That doesn't include sales taxes. It's outrageous. And what we're seeing right now in Seattle confirms what I'm talking about. Because in Seattle, you remember the mayor of Seattle a couple of weeks ago was asked about all of her progressive policies and how they would impact Microsoft, Starbucks, other tech companies that are located in Seattle. Here was her one-word response. She looked at the camera. Oh, this is a great moment. She looked at the camera and she waved her hand and she said, bye. That's what she said. Well, what happens when the rich people leave Seattle? What happens then? They take their businesses with them. They take their employees with them. You know, one of the greatest detriments to the St. Louis region, when we started losing corporate headquarters from St. Louis. At one point, do you realize that St. Louis was, I believe, 4th in the country in terms of having corporate headquarters? 4th, maybe even 3rd. I'll have to go back and look at the data. In the country. And now it's a pittance. What happens is those corporations take with them their employees. They take with them their donations to charities. They take with them the civic pride. And all of that goes out the door when the so-called rich people leave. Look what's going on in the city of St. Louis right now. And that's why I'm bringing all this home to this point. You've got TV stations now that are moving out of St. Louis City. Channel 5 moved to the Highlands. Channel 4 moved to Maryland Heights. Fox 2 is now I believe in Maryland Heights. The only TV station left in the city right now in the downtown area, I think, is Channel 30, which I believe is on Cass Avenue, but I could be mistaken about that. But here's my point. Businesses are leaving by the droves. Law firms, I deal with law firms every single day. They're leaving the city. One of my law partners, she had an office in the Peabody building several years ago. She decided it was time to leave when her windows got shot out by gunfire. She was on the 10th floor. Windows got shot out. That's when she came and joined my firm. So that's what happens. And yet when you look at Kara Spencer, when you look at the progressives in the city, they look at the wealthy and the business community as being the problem, when they should be looking at that as the solution. Because if you would locate more businesses in the city, what would happen? You'd have people working, people making more money, they could keep their property values up, you would have lower crime rates. Things get better when people are working. And yet from the progressives' perspective, businesses are just something from which to take money. That's how they view it. And if you have the viewpoint of the progressives like AOC, like Bernie Sanders, like Elizabeth Warren, like Mamdani, like so many others, at that point, you're saying if you have money, you're evil. And folks, that is one of the cruxes of the problems right now with the Democrat Party. And if they ever want to do a better job, which I don't think Democrats or progressives can do a better job, but if they ever want to try to do a better job, they have to stop calling people with money evil. Hey, Brad Young here. Got to take a break. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Don't go away. This is the Mark Reardon Show, St. Louis Conservative, 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We do have an accident this afternoon, northbound 170. As you approach Page, they've got the right lane blocked and traffic is stacked up behind them. We also have a jam on eastbound 44, headed for the 55 split and on to the Poplar Street Bridge. Now, the bridge traffic itself is fine, but there is a jam headed for it. Also on the Illinois side, eastbound 64 is slowing at 255. Now, southbound 270 has some moderate volume. It's just pockets, and it's Clayton Road overpass down through 21. Westbound 70, fine in the city, slowing on either side of Cave Springs, and jams up at Wentzville. But 6440 looks great. It really doesn't slow until some moderate volume out at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. And 44, some moderate volume too, mainly on either side of 141. Now, on the Illinois side, 64 eastbound continues to jam at 255, headed for 157. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, look, we had some real-life examples of the power going out here in the St. Louis area because of storms recently. Let's fix that. Let's make sure that you're not worried about the power going out, and we're going to get you a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from Generator Supercenter of St. Louis. They're the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. These are high-quality generators. I've mentioned this before. You know, I lived in Milwaukee for almost 10 years, a couple of decades ago, and the company was located in Waukesha, Wisconsin, Generac. So it's a very well-known brand. They've been around for a while. And again, Generator Supercenter, this is all they do is generators. They're the #1 Generac generator dealer in the country. There's a lot of competition out there from maybe electricians and HVAC or plumbing contractors who also sell generators, but You don't want to go that way because Generator Supercenter, that's all they do. They sell, install, maintain, monitor. They give you the certified maintenance and the warranty work. You can't get that from a lot of the competition. So get on the horn today, 314-499-2020. Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com. They have financing available with low monthly payments. Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com.
Imagine this, a summer evening, relaxing under a beautiful porch overhang, hosting your friends on a composite deck, or enjoying a bug-free breeze in a screened room. That sounds dreamy, right? Hi, it's Kim, and that dream can be your reality with Lakeside Renovation and Design because they specialize in creating outdoor spaces that make your backyard the go-to spot for family and friends. And with their attention to detail and the high-quality materials they use, you'll have a space that lasts for years. Visit lakesideRD.com today to get started on your outdoor oasis.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
When you're learning something new, experience matters. At Lifestyles Unlimited, we've spent over 30 years teaching people how real estate investing works and how to build income with a clear, step-by-step strategy. Our program is designed to help you learn what to do, why it works, and how to take action at your own pace. Join today for just $297, a 60% savings off the regular price. Text radio to 88007. That's RADIO to 88007. Presented by Lifestyles Unlimited.
What's up? It's Draymond Green. I'm back for my 14th NBA season, and my podcast, The Draymond Green Show, is back too. This season, I'm breaking down games, reacting to the biggest NBA stories, and sitting down with teammates, rivals, and culture shapers. And trust me, I'm not holding back, on the court or on the mic. 2 new episodes every week. New segments, big conversations, real basketball talk for the real hoop heads. Listen to and follow The Draymond Green Show wherever you get your podcasts. We're back. We're better. Let's get it.
The Mark Reardon Show, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in on a great Friday afternoon. Hope you're going to have some fantastic plans here for the holiday weekend. I know that I do. I hope you do as well. If you smell any brats cooking in the Chesterfield area all weekend long, that's my house. Just follow your nose and come on over, and I will have an extra brat for you. I'd love to have an extra brat for Sue because this is the best part, frankly, of the Mark Reardon Show, Sue's News.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
You know, I had forgotten to go to the grocery store yesterday because you don't really want to go on any day attached to a holiday weekend.
Don't. It's a madhouse.
But I found that there weren't that many people there in the middle of the day. Hashtag I survived. But it really was, you know what, they've got out all the stuff that you need and the flag stuff. They even have like planters that have American flags in them for Memorial Day and everything. It's kind of great.
Excellent.
Okay, I want to wish all of you a happy National Vanilla Pudding Day. Ethan.
And, of course, we got Fred Bottomer's in here, too. Fred, you like a vanilla pudding?
No, I'm a chocolate pudding
Chocolate
guy.
pudding, right here.
Not so much vanilla.
That's why I go to
chocolate
Ethan,
pudding.
because I know that Fred's all about the chocolate.
Yeah, chocolate is supreme. Vanilla is the one that like you can deal with. It's fine if it's there, but like if chocolate's there, then vanilla gets absolutely no attention.
Okay, here's the thing, though. With the pudding, I think that is well put.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you put the whipped cream in there and some nuts, Brad, your thoughts?
My thoughts are that vanilla pudding is probably banned by the Geneva Convention as being cruel and unusual punishment.
Well, that's dramatic.
That was dramatic. I'm saying you're leaning then to the chocolate as well.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
The pistachio is good if you're going fake and you go all the way. The fake Jell-O pistachio, not bad. Not bad.
Sue, you're like a pudding connoisseur. My experience with pudding is snack packs.
No. Here's the thing. You don't want the Jell-O cooked pudding, and you don't want a snack pack. You want the stuff where you put the cold milk in there and whip it up. Am I right?
That seems like a thing of the past. It doesn't seem like pudding's just. I don't know if pudding's in among my generation.
It may not be.
I don't think it is.
If you were given snack packs, it's understandable.
Yeah.
It's also National Buy a Musical Instrument Day. Fred, what would you buy? Wait, what was it you played?
The snare drum.
That's right.
I specialized in the snare drum.
What a freaking guy.
Never more than one drum, just one snare drum.
Did you like ta-da-ta-da-ta-da at the back of the...
Oh, yeah. I could do a good drum roll. I was fun in a marching band because I could carry that around my neck.
Sure.
Oh, that's cool.
But that was about it.
Brad, did you play? What'd you play at school?
I played drums in high school, and I played snare drum, triple tom, and then I played a drum set in several various rock bands and country western bands, and then when I lost all my hair, I had to stop playing.
Oh, that's a sad tale. Fred, you see him showing off with multiple drums.
I know, I heard that.
Tom, it's also
triple tom.
Yeah.
Right. Although
Ethan,
I didn't know that about Brad at all.
I didn't either. Ethan, what'd you play? What did they make you play something at school?
I played not at school, but my mom made me start playing piano when I was in kindergarten. I played it through 8th grade. Part of me wishes that I never would have stopped because I do really enjoy listening to piano players.
Me too.
But it took a lot of time and a lot of practice, and at that point I just did not have a lot of interest. I was putting so much time into sports. But if there was something that I had time that didn't end up being like a sports related hobby, that would be something that I wouldn't be against trying out again.
Yeah. Did you have to practice half an hour a day? That was Louise Thomas's rule.
I think Mom made us do 20 minutes.
The times they changed. Mm-hmm. And it's also National Cooler Day. Now, these literally are the coolers you take out for Memorial Day or at any other one. But they say that it wasn't until the 1950s that the portable icebox even came to be a thing. In fact, styrofoam wasn't invented until 1944. So it's a fairly recent, or at least the 50s on, invention.
Well, Sue, what is your favorite, when you're having a backyard cookout on the grill, what is your favorite cookout food?
I like a cheeseburger, Brad.
Okay.
But there is a place in Illinois that makes those. Fred had one. Fred, those brats, aren't they good?
Oh, yeah, they are really good. I had them at Sue's house. It's like, what was it infused with?
Well, that's just it. They have everything over there, Brad, and I can't think of the name of the place, but you can have bacon cheddar, and they make them in-house. You can have blue cheese. You can have garlic. You can have any. They have 8 billion different flavors, or possibly 15.
Tell you what should be against the Geneva Convention is talking about this while not being able to eat it. Jeez, brutal.
But yeah, those are good too. What kind of brats are you cooking, Brad? Are you straight up Johnsonville or Schnucks?
No, they're. I think my wife picks them up from Schnucks. But what I'm going to do is with my pellet grill is I'm going to get one of those big disposable aluminum pans. I'm going to put brats in there along with 2 Anheuser-Busch products, sliced onions, bell peppers, a little bit of garlic, and then I'm going to cook it on my pellet grill for an hour and then sear it on my pellet grill to give it a nice firm texture. Those are the brats at the Young House.
No joke.
That's not bad. You should take the ones. Oh, it's Schubert's Smokehouse in Millstadt, Illinois.
Oh,
they're made in-house. You cannot beat it. And I've never heard the words pellet grill said so often in one description, and I like it. Let's see. On this day in history, 68 years ago.
Follow Mark on Twitter at Mark Reardon, KFTK.
Wrong mouse.
I get it. In 1958, Jerry Lee Lewis arrived in England. He was kicking off his first tour in the UK after confirming to the press that he did marry his 13-year-old first cousin. The tour was canceled. Why? Why do we marry our 13-year-old? That's not good.
We don't.
No.
No, I guess his viewpoint was, let's just keep it in the family.
And 46 years ago today, in 1980, the original Pac-Man arcade video game was released in Japan. And, of course, it came over 5 months later. I did love the Pac-Man. Fred, was that after you?
No, it was. But I liked Ms. Pac-Man better.
Why?
I don't know. It's just more fun.
Okay. Brad, did you play the Pac-Man?
I dropped hundreds and hundreds of dollars
Yes.
in the local arcade playing Pac-Man. And I wish I had that money back. If I would have invested that in a high-yield mutual fund, I'd be much better off today.
Oh, yes.
Or a pellet grill.
Or a pellet grill.
But he got that, Fred, so it's okay.
That's true, yeah.
Plus, he plays multiple drums. So.
That's right. I'm liking him less and less.
Oh, great.
This day in history 30 years ago was the first Mission Impossible movie. That was 1996. Wow. 30 years ago. Ugh. I don't even know how that's possible. Okay. AAA has released its Memorial Day travel report, and they're predicting a record number of Americans. I feel like they say that every year, but they expect 45 million people to travel this year, up a notch from 2025. The record is 44.8 million, which was set last year. Now, you have to travel at least 50 miles from home to be counted. And finally, in Sue's News, we do have today's random fact. Michael Jordan still earns approximately $150 million a year from his Nike endorsement.
Wow.
That's nearly 5 times more than any other NBA star. Not too shabby. Ooh, and I've got one more. Seems holiday-ish. 96% of homes in the U.S. have a bottle of ketchup. I'm not one of them.
Thank you,
and
Sue.
That's it for Sue's News.
Gotta go. We'll be right back.
I'm Dan Loney with Your Money Now. The Dow Industrials posted a record close for the second consecutive day. The Dow was up 294 points on Friday, ending the day at 50,579. NASDAQ picked up 51 points. The S&P 500 gained 27. West Texas crude was slightly higher today, settling at $97 a barrel. The Memorial Day weekend is usually a pretty good one for the movie industry. And to that end, the latest Star Wars trilogy film, The Mandalorian and Grogu, collected $12 million in ticket sales for Thursday night preview showings. But that is the lowest total in franchise history. Estimates are for about $95 million worth of tickets over the 4-day holiday weekend. IMAX is apparently exploring a sale. Reports say that the premium theater company has had preliminary talks through third parties, but so far there have been no official offers made for IMAX. The potential sale is coming off a year where IMAX generated a record $1.28 billion at the global box office. That's Your Money Now.
Lunch was great, but this traffic is awful.
Can we stop at a bathroom?
Are you all right?
I keep having stomach issues after eating, like diarrhea, gas and bloating, abdominal pain, and sometimes oily stools.
Sound familiar? Those stomach issues may actually be a pancreas issue called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. Creon pancrelipase may help manage EPI. Creon is a prescription medicine used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. Call 800-633-9110 or visit creoninfo.com to learn more. That's creoninfo.com.
I'm asking my doctor about EPI and if Creon could help.
This is Congressman Bob Onder. Americans demanded border security, and House Republicans delivered. According to the Department of Homeland Security, for 10 consecutive months, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has reported 0 illegal aliens released at the border. I'm proud to have worked with the Trump administration to secure our southern border and uphold our immigration laws, and will keep fighting to advance strong policies that protect Missourians and keep America safe.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
When it comes to planning your retirement, there's a lot to think about. Portfolio management, tax planning, and retirement income just to get started. Steve All and his team at the All Financial Group focus on those things and more. Their goal is to help you achieve your goals. Call 636-230-8824 or online, yourmoneymattersstl.com.
Investment advisory products and services made available through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IBW, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Steve All, NPN number 153-07419.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
The time is 4:32. This time check sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Happy birthday, America, in 2026. Get used to hearing the word semi-quincentennial on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Grant Young sitting in today for Mark. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're having as much fun as I'm having. I love it when I get to sit in here with the cool kids over here on 97.1 FM Talk. And speaking of cool kids, joining us now is Paul Hall, film critic and the writer behind the Common Guys film reviews. Paul, great to talk to you again, sir.
Hello. Happy holiday weekend. I'm going to be finding my local store has sausages from Johnsonville infused with Dr. Pepper. I'm going to try them.
Ooh, okay. Well,
would you?
I would try one. I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to brats, but I would certainly try that. And hopefully, if we go to Common Guys film reviews, we could check out your review of Dr. Pepper infused brats.
I just may say something about it later, but the rest of you are going to go out and see Star Wars: The Mandalorian and Grogu, right?
That's right. And speaking of which, you read my mind here, Paul. I actually did want to start with Star Wars.
Hey, never touch the buttons. I can use some information.
Whoa, for this price, I'll tell you whatever you want.
I'm looking for a hut.
Close for the night. Thank you.
Gangsters, war criminals.
Long live the Empire.
We'll take out every bad guy in your deck of cards.
So, Paul, this is the first Star Wars movie in theaters in, my goodness, years. I don't remember when the last one was. Does this feel like a true event movie again to you?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it does feel like an event in theaters. Whether I think it's an event movie or not, I might be a little different on that. The whole deal is Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian character, has really taken over Disney Plus the last, half a dozen years or so in the multiple series. And it's been something that's been very special. So we bring it to theaters with Grogu, which is, everybody says looks like Baby Yoda. I won't talk more about where he fits in the whole lexicon of the Star Wars universe, but here's the story. When you go to this one, and I went to see it on a sold-out fan event last night because I wanted to see it that way with a big crowd that was fans. Fans absolutely love this. And I understand that. I totally agree with them. This is a movie that is fun. It's fun to experience on the big screen. It's fun to experience with a group. It's fun to experience with your friends who like Star Wars. From the standpoint of, is it a good movie or not? I know a lot of critics have been bad on it. I think it's a good movie, but I don't think it's a great movie.
Well,
here's the...
Okay, but sorry to cut you off there, Paul, but I think for folks who are listening, I wanted to get your perspective on this before you give your actual critique of the movie, and that is this. I've been watching Mandalorian. I'm up to date. I know who the characters are. I know what's happening. But can a casual viewer jump into this movie, or do you really need to see the Disney Plus series beforehand?
That's a great question. I think you can come in as a standalone and see this as just a movie, a big budget movie, see some of the Star Wars universe on the big screen. If you're aware of what we're talking about, if you're aware of the universe that we're dealing with, I think that's plenty. You don't have to be up to date like on every single episode. Now, will you enjoy it more if you did? Yes. My daughter is a huge fan. She has gone through all of them, everything in the Star Wars universe, and she said she felt more connected than some people did for that reason. But I think it's a good standalone from the standpoint of, anyone can sit down and watch it.
Well, I think it's so cool that Sigourney Weaver is in this, taking over the role from, ironically, Apollo Creed. What's the actor's name?
Carl Weathers.
Yeah, Carl Weathers. Thank you. After he passed away, and he did that role, and obviously it's not the same character. That would be awkward. No. But if you're going to put a woman into that role, what a great choice.
You know what else is cool? Martin Scorsese is the voice of one of the characters here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I love when he does stuff like that. You'll recognize, if you recognize Scorsese's voice, you'll recognize him. The thing about this movie, what I liked and what I didn't like, nonstop action. A little over 2 hours, you will not be bored on screen. It's lots of fights, lots of battles. The whole thing is there. What I didn't like is it felt like two separate movies. It felt like almost this could have been split at about the hour mark of the movie into two separate Mandalorian episodes, say, on Disney Plus. That kind of bothered me a little. I think it was set up to be
Paul, it was set up to
Sorry
do...
about that.
That's okay. It was set up to do what?
To be perfectly end it about an hour in, but then we knew we had more to go, and it had to keep going. And that both sides were okay, but they could have stood on their own as an individual episode. So that bothered me a little bit.
Well, I will be checking that one out for sure, as I'm a big Mandalorian fan. But I'm also a fan of Jack Ryan, and Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan Ghost War is hitting the theaters, which rather shocked me because I've been watching it on Amazon Prime. So tell us about Jack Ryan Ghost War.
It is not hitting the theaters there, Brad.
Oh, I'm mistaken then. Okay, fill me in.
It's available right on Prime Video, so you'll be able to watch it at home like everybody else will. They released it directly there. Krasinski's back. Wendell Pierce is back. It's a tale of an action film that I just love. I love the Jack Ryan character. I love Clancy's characters through the years. All the films they put him in, the TV series they put him in, and it works again here. I found myself running along with the ride for the better part of, it was close to 2 hours, about an hour and 45 minutes. And this is really, for those of you who like this whole franchise, and you should know what it's about by now, you will enjoy this. Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan Ghost War is on Prime Video now.
Well, and here's the question I have for you, because I'm right in the middle of the most recent season of the series that's dropped. Because I got a little bit behind. So now I'm about 3 episodes in on the most recent series. So do I have to finish this series? Again, like I asked about The Mandalorian, is it okay for someone to understand who the character is to see this standalone movie?
I think for those of you who know who Jack Ryan is and where that came from in the whole Tom Clancy novels and whatnot, I think you'll be okay. I think you're better off having finished that last series till now. Because there is kind of a transition in the beginning, but from there forward, I think you're fine.
Well, good, because I'm looking forward to that. Because Krasinski, when he got picked to be in that role, to me, I was thinking, is he really of the caliber of like Alec Baldwin in the first one, of Harrison Ford, of even Chris Pine, who I thought did an okay job when he did the standalone movie? I was a little leery about John Krasinski, but then when I saw him in the role, I thought he nailed it. So how do you see Paul Hall? How do you see John Krasinski fitting in with the prior actors who have played this role?
I think he knocks it out of the park. I like him as good, or if not better, than some of the actors you have mentioned. I can never take him in front of Harrison Ford because Harrison Ford is just a god in my book. But
yes,
other than that, quite frankly, he definitely steps right in there in the middle of them in all well good, and he's a great character to watch.
The last movie, or the last, actually it's on Netflix, show that I want to ask you about is The Burrows. And the reason why I wanted to make sure we left enough time to talk about this, Paul, is I was a huge fan of Stranger Things. The Duffer Brothers were behind that. I thought it had its strong points and weak points as the series progressed, but overall, I liked it. I thought it was fresh. I thought it was new. It kept me guessing. I enjoyed it. But now we have the Duffer Brothers as the producers on The Burrows. Tell us about The Burrows.
For me, I hadn't seen Stranger Things forever. This is my guilty pleasure miss. I hadn't watched the series in quite some time. However, my wife and I just went through the process of going through that series. So we're getting used to the weirdness of Stranger Things, shall we say. There's some of that here in the Burrows, and we take it with an older crowd. And this is an older acting crew that, quite frankly, works together. Alfred Molina, Gina Davis, Alfred Woodard, Bill Pullman, people you've known on screen forever. They're moving into this senior facility. Look at it like the Villages if it was out west, and they're going to go ahead and live out their days there, but there's weird things going on around them. And what those weird things are and what they're leading to, who knows? These guys know how to fill up the screen and work, both them and the people who have created this from Stranger Things background and the Duffers. They create an atmosphere that is fun, unique, and just a interesting time from episode to episode. They've dropped, I believe, the whole series now available on Netflix.
Here's my question on this, without giving too much away. Is this like this may be even before your time, but there was this movie Cocoon from 30 years ago where it was kind of, again, senior citizens in a senior center, and there's some kind of an alien thing that drops in the pool. Is this does it have a different vibe than Cocoon?
Yeah, I always viewed Cocoon as a very tame movie.
Yes.
This has got more of a edge to it.
Okay, good.
Think of it like Cocoon meets the X-Files or something like that, where weird things are going on all around. And think of it as Cocoon meets Stranger Things. I mean, if you watch the series, you know the weird things are happening every corner, every house, and whatnot. And I got to mention one thing before we go here, Brad. Don't go to the theaters and see the new movie that's out called Corporate Retreat. I saw it. You don't need to. I want to poke my eyes out because I did see it. I didn't get. No.
You're never going to get those 2 hours back.
Thankfully it was only 90 minutes, but I wanted to get them back. And if you do see this movie, don't blame me. I warned you.
You did in fact warn us. And Paul, if folks want to check out all of your reviews online, how can they do that?
Yeah, hit up commonguy.com, especially on Facebook. Look for me, Paul Hall, Common Guys Film Reviews. You'll get everything, including I'm working through a movie a day in the month of May, and quite frankly, it's been a busy month with good, bad, and Corporate Retreat. Very ugly.
Very good. Paul Hall, Common Guys Film Reviews. Thank you so much for joining us here, Paul. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
Have a great holiday weekend.
Thanks, and you too. Coming up next, you're going to want to stick around. We're talking to Frank Cusumano. You know Frank. He's coming up next here on the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in for the vacationing Mark Reardon. Sometimes I say he's on assignment. I'm not even going to make that up. He's vacationing. But he should be back next week. But I hope you'll be back right after this. 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got a jam on northbound 55 headed for the Poplar Street Bridge, and it goes back, the jam does, onto 44 near Jefferson. Also on the Illinois side, some heavy traffic eastbound 64 approaching 255 through 157. Now, crews have been working with an accident on northbound 170 approaching Page. They've had the right lane blocked through there, and that has created a jam. 70 westbound looks great. It's great out of downtown. It really doesn't slow until Highway A out through Wentzville, and then it opens up. Even 64 looks fine. It's just slow right at the 70 split. And other than that, we are in good shape. Let me look at 55, though. Down south, we do have some moderate volume, and this is especially in the Peevely area. So if you're traveling through there, it's a little bit of a slow go at Z in the construction zone, and maybe a little bit to the south and just south of Festus, headed down towards 67. But generally, we're okay. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Never miss a beat. Take 97.1 FM Talk with you. The voices you trust, Mark Cox, Annie Fry, Mark Reardon, Scott Jennings, and more are just a tap away with the Odyssey app. Mainstream 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, if you need help in the area of family law, that might mean the end of a marriage. It might mean divorce, right? It's not the only thing that family law covers, but it could be where you're in a situation where you kind of realize the writing is on the wall. What do you do? First thing you do, you reach out to Susan L. Ward at stlfamilylaw.com. She is an outstanding family practice attorney with decades of experience here in St. Louis who can help you through what might be the biggest crisis of your life. I know for me, now this goes back 25 years or so, it was, and it was really, really tough. I hired an attorney at the time because I really had never hired an attorney. I was relatively young, who was new and didn't really have experience. That was a bad mistake. That's the opposite of what you're going to get with Susan and her team. So if you need help, and the advice is always from her and from me the same, reach out as soon as you think you need help, because that's going to make sure that you're, not making bad decisions that will come back to haunt you, especially with your kids. So trust the team. Call 314-783-9400 or online at stlfamilylaw.com. The focus on family law, the emphasis on you, Susan L. Ward.
The ACA Marketplace has announced significant increases on their monthly premiums for 2026, with deductibles over $10,000. You can enroll with Greg Hammond's Freedom of Choice plans now. You don't have to wait. One has zero outpatient deductibles, and it's 30 to 60% lower costs than most Obamacare plans. Other options are full coverage PPOs with national networks, copays, and 100% annual preventative care. Also, there's no income disclosure required, so no potential tax penalties. If you pay for your own health insurance, you're uninsured, you're on COBRA, or your employer coverage is just too expensive, call Greg and they'll provide all available options. Call 314-794-7784. That's 314-794-7784. Or go to greghammonds.com. That's greghammonds.com. He can custom design a plan managed and chosen by you, not the government.
Want to make the most of your tax refund? File with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then we help you do more with it. With a personalized plan designed to help you hit your money goals. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Mark Reardon is St. Louis Conservative.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in today. Thanks for hanging out with us here on a holiday weekend. And, of course, there's no one better to hang out with than Frank Cusumano from Channel 5. Frank, good to talk to you, my friend.
Good to be with you. How's everything going, Brad?
Things are going great. Except things aren't going great in the world of NASCAR. And I really want to start with the death of Kyle Busch, because for those who are not NASCAR fans, how big a deal is this?
Well, he's one of the greatest of all time. In fact, statistically, if you factor in the three major national racing series in the NASCAR circuit, he is number one of all time. And I thought it was really a classy gesture by the Richard Childress racing team, because today they've decided to retire Kyle Busch's number 8 until his son is old enough to race. I mean, how emotional and how powerful and how great is that?
That's quite a story, Frank. And I'm not a big NASCAR fan. My sister is, and my phone was blowing up when the news came down about Kyle Busch passing away, because for her it was like if you're a golf fan and Tiger Woods passes away, or and maybe that's not a good comparison, but the point is he was a juggernaut in the field of racing.
He was. I can remember being at Worldwide Technology Raceway a few years ago for the Enjoy Illinois 300, and he won the race. And I can still remember interviewing him afterwards. Wow. He was a feisty guy. He was a tough guy, and he didn't allow for non-exceptionalism on that racing team. So he's going to be missed. And to be so young at age 41 and to lose your life, it's a tragedy.
It is a tragedy. But what I think, though, there's a story, if we want to go from tragedy to a great story. Brian Torres, I understand that the Cardinals are bringing him up.
Yes. Nathan Church has some type of shoulder issue. So they've brought this young man up, and this is one of the great heartwarming stories of the year for the Cardinals. You know, Brett, I'm often in that locker room when they bring up a player for the first time, and normally that player is like 23 or 24, and it's really kind of cool, and they talk about mom and dad and all the Little League baseball. But Brian Childress is 28 years old. He signed his first professional contract 11 years ago. He was released and out of baseball at age 24. He came back to play in the independent league to make no money at all because he believed in his ability. And you talk about ability. Every league he plays in, Brad, he leads the league in on-base percentage and hits for a high number. Right now in AAA, he's hitting .339 with like a ridiculous .452 on base percentage.
Wow.
So this is really going to be cool. I mean, I just can't imagine the thrill he's going to have when the public address announcer says, now hitting for the St. Louis Cardinals, Brian Torres. I don't really know him, but I've been rooting for him, and it's about time he gets a chance.
Yeah, certainly a high walk rate as well. So hopefully he'll be able to fill in as that what I would assume would be fourth outfield spot adequately while Nathan Church is healing up with that shoulder sprain. It creates for an interesting situation in the outfield. Lars Nootbaar is not too far away, Frank. We're probably looking at another week and a half, 2 weeks until he is back. So maybe Nathan Church is back by that point. But you have a little bit of an interesting situation here with Victor Scott and how much he has been struggling as of late. Is there a certain way that you think the Cardinals should go about the handling of the outfield once Lars Nootbaar is to return?
Well, Lars is going to get the first crack, and he's going to get regular playing time when they think he's ready to go. But they got a real offensive problem. I mean, they went through that stretch. They were shut out 2 out of 3 games, and then yesterday they didn't hit. I mean, Ali Marmol deserves to be the manager of the year because, like, after the first 4 spots in the lineup, there's a dip. Now, Wynn's okay, and Gorman's had some moments, but if you can bring up a bat or a guy just to get on base like Torres always does, I think you got to really take your shot. And the Jimmy Crook situation, it's just getting strange how a guy with his on base percentage, with his home run total, is not getting a chance. I know Pedro Paez is a very good guy in the clubhouse, and I know he's pretty solid defensively. But if you're getting shut out a lot and you're not hitting, and these numbers are really bad offensively, you gotta look to the minor leagues. I tell you what, there's probably not a situation in baseball where at one position you're getting such little production, and in that same organization you have another person playing that same position who's hitting up a storm and not getting a chance. So I think we're going to see some changes, and I'm glad Brian Torres is the first one.
Well, Frank, you raise a great question here, and this is always a debate in St. Louis about whether the Cardinals should be developing their own players or whether they should go out and write big checks for big-name players. And yet right now, the Cardinals, I think they have the 5th best record in the entire National League. So what does this tell you about the debate, that on and off debate about what the Cardinals are doing right now?
Well, look, the Chaim Bloom game plan is working, and he's thinking big picture. That's why I think at the deadline, if somebody offers them a lot of prospects for one of their veteran players, they'll do it. Because let's face it, they're still not a team that can win a World Series now. So I love his big picture look at everything. So I don't think, like at the deadline, they'll be adding. I think that they'll be thinking, let's think about 2027, 2028, because we're going to build something special here.
Frank, we got 30 seconds left, but I want to hear about what's coming up on Sports Plus this Sunday night.
Well, we're going to have some good talkers. The best talker of the Cardinal team is Michael McGreevy, and we sat him down for an extensive interview. He's an amazing story to be that successful while not throwing a baseball that hard. Really a bright young man. And then Mike Claiborne, Cardinal broadcaster, is going to pop in studio. So some great talkers Sunday night for Sports Plus.
Well, Frank, that's a guaranteed must-see watching at my house every Sunday night. Thanks for joining us, my friend.
Okay, Brad, good to see you guys. Thank you so much.
Good to talk to you. Hey, we'll be right back right after this. 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, we've got a little bit of volume on southbound 55 tonight through the construction zone, kind of on either side of Z, and then things open up. Now, southbound 270 looks great. And westbound 70 is in good shape. Maybe a slow pocket or two approaching A out through Wentzville. 64, moderate volume at Clayton Skinker. Eastbound slow 170 through Big Bend. And northbound 170, still some volume. Headed for Page. There was an accident just south of there on the right side. Out west, some moderate volume 64 westbound from Lake St. Louis Boulevard out through 70. Now there's a jam downtown on eastbound 44, which heads for and kind of merges with northbound 55, headed for the Poplar. That's a jam, but traffic on the bridge itself looks okay. On the Illinois side, eastbound 64, heavy and slow, pretty much right at 255 and a bit beyond. This report brought to you by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. Simply the finest when it comes to mirror glass and shower doors. You can't find better quality, prices, or service. They have the basics all the way up to the elite. Barron Mirror Glass and Door can't be beat. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, you're not alone. Most importantly, you don't have to live with it. Paramount Men's Medical Center restores men's sex lives in just one visit. Their painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, even when Viagra and Cialis don't work. Here's Dr. Simovitz, specialist in men's health.
Paramount Men's Medical Center's painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, regardless of age or medical history. 98% of patients see instant results right in the office.
Men are now lasting longer than they ever imagined. And the best part, at Paramount Men's Medical Center, your consultation and first treatment are free. Qualified patients even get their testosterone checked free. Call 314-887-4333. 314-887-4333. Take control of your sex life. Call now. 314-887-4333.
We all know spring weather means spring storms. Mark Cox here for Hanson's Tree Service. Now's the time to remove any dead or hazardous trees over your home before the spring storms bring them down. It's a great time to have an arborist come out and put together a plant health care program for your trees and shrubs. You can also order mulch and compost directly from the website and have it delivered to your driveway. Just go to hansonstree.com. Again, that's hansonstree.com.
The IRS, the world's most aggressive collection agency. They can seize your property, bank account, and garnish your wages. They cause sleepless nights for millions of Americans. Don't be one of them. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, get protected today. Call 800-242-3186. Coast One Tax Group, protecting your bank, home, and your sleep since 2008. With hundreds of 5-star reviews and an A+ on the Better Business Bureau. Call Coast One Tax Group, 800-242-3186. Stanley from New York owed $93,000. The IRS placed a levy on his bank account. Coast One released the levy and settled with the IRS for $2,000. Mark in Michigan owed $225,000. After Coast One stepped in, Mark walked away paying less than $1,500. Call Coast One now. A 10-minute call can save you up to 93% on your back taxes. Get your fresh start today. That's 800-242-3186.
Sponsored by Coast One Financial Group.
Hey, St. Louis, this is Brian Kilmeade. You know, I always have a great time when I visit you guys, and I'm coming back this November. So join me, Brian Kilmeade, by getting tickets for the show at The Factory at 971talk.com/events.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
Gabbard will soon be gone. I'm Tom Rigotti, Fox News. The country's intel chief is stepping down next month. Fox's Jared Halpern reports.
The director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is resigning, she says, to be with her husband, who was diagnosed with an extremely rare form of bone cancer. Gabbard says her last day is expected to be June 30th. Her tenure as DNI has been marked by declassifying millions of pages of government files on the assassinations of President Kennedy and his brother, former Attorney General Robert Kennedy. She also released files she says shows Obama administration officials politicized intelligence about Russian election interference. A former member of Congress, Gabbard ran for president as a Democrat in 2020. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Kevin Warsh has been sworn in as the 17th chair of the Federal Reserve. Fox Business Network's Connor Hansen reports at least one Fed governor does not think cutting interest rates is the best way to go.
Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller made comments shortly before that ceremony saying it would be, quote, crazy for the Fed to contemplate cuts in the near future. Central bankers say some policy firming might be appropriate if inflation persistently stays above that 2% target rate. Warsh begins his first term as the conflict in Iran puts upward pressure on prices.
President Trump campaigning north of New York City today in Suffern, New York, speaking in a battleground House district. Trump touting his administration's efforts of bringing prosperity back to New York State, which he says has declined under previous administrations.
Under the Trump administration, we're doing everything we can to bring New York back in bigger, better, stronger than ever before.
President Trump joining New York Congressman Mike Lawler ahead of one of the state's key midterm elections in the 17th district. America's listening to Fox News.
If watching TV has gotten way too complicated for you, then here's some good news. You can say goodbye to a million different subscriptions, wasting money and endless searching for something to watch. And say hello to Philo, a better way to TV. Philo's the only streaming service that keeps you in mind, making TV easy and affordable without sacrificing quality or the channels you love. With Philo, there's a package that's right for you. Whether you're looking for the best live TV on more than 70 channels, with a huge library of movies and shows, and an unlimited DVR, or you're looking to upgrade your experience with Philo's bundle, unlocking access to even more blockbuster films on top-rated shows on HBO Max Basic with ads, AMC Plus, and Discovery Plus. Whatever you choose, with Philo, you're getting great TV for an even better price. Find out more at philo.tv. That's PHILO.tv. Subscriptions auto-renew. Cancel anytime. See philo.tv for more.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
There'll be a couple of spotty light rain showers around up through about 8 or 9 o'clock this evening. Clouds dominate this evening and all night long. 59 degrees. On Saturday, mix of clouds and sunshine, nothing more than a spot thunder shower. 80 degrees, best chance for rain. And Saturday night, especially late Saturday night with scattered shower, a couple of thunder showers, 62. A couple of spotty showers here and there on Sunday, otherwise partly sunny and 80. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Damer.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Welcome back to 97.1 FM Talk. Brad Young sitting in today. Glad you are hanging out with us here on this Memorial Day weekend. And a couple of weeks ago, I talked a lot about that Supreme Court decision regarding so-called gerrymandering and what is or is not permissible under the 14th Amendment. So I wanted to reach out to the man with the most fun name to say of any name in the history of names, Hans von Spakovsky, senior fellow at the Edwin Meese Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. He's at the Advancing American Freedom Center. Hans, it's great to talk to you again, sir. Okay, I'm sorry, Hans. We had a little technical problem there. Why don't you try that again?
Okay, I was going to say I think you're having tough duty tonight. You're manning the radio. Everybody else is headed out for Memorial Day.
Well, you know what? This is my Memorial Day. I get to have fun talking to people like you, and that's why I love doing this. And just to kind of set it up for our listeners, the Supreme Court recently issued that major ruling involving Louisiana congressional redistricting and the Voting Rights Act and how those two go together. Now, I know, Hans, you've heard this, that critics on the left are claiming that the court gutted the voting rights protections, but and the media rather immediately claimed that this just gutted all of the rights that were there to protect African Americans or Black Americans in our country. What is your perspective on that?
No, those claims are all basically false. And what they're being put forward by Democrats and, frankly, their friends in the media, because what the Supreme Court basically did is return the Voting Rights Act to its original purpose, which is to stop racial discrimination in voting. And what all those critics are mad about is that for the last 20 years, the Voting Rights Act has been misused for one purpose and one purpose only, not to stop racial discrimination, but in fact to engage and force states to engage in racial discrimination. Why? In order to elect Democratic candidates. And that's what they are so angry about. But any idea that they gutted the Voting Rights Act? No. They returned it to its original purpose.
So you argued in your piece that came out this week that a lot of this outrage that we're seeing over this Supreme Court decision is really, although they won't say this part out loud, but the left is really upset because the way the Voting Rights Act was protecting minority districts, it wasn't just minority districts. And I made the point before, Hans, there were no Asian districts. There was no Hispanically cut districts. There were no Armenian cut districts. It was only African-American districts. But it's really about protecting political power, not voting rights.
No, that's exactly right. And again, to go back to the Voting Rights Act, look, it says that you can't use race unless you're trying to remedy intentional racial discrimination. And there was nothing like that in Louisiana. In fact, look, what happened in Louisiana was very straightforward. They have 6 congressional seats. They redrew them after the 2020 census. They actually created or kept one black majority district like they've had for decades. They got sued by the NAACP and others saying, oh, no. You've got to create a second black majority district. And a judge, frankly, a bad judge, told the legislature, oh, yeah, you do, because otherwise you're violating Section 2. Now, what evidence did she have in front of her? The plaintiffs in that case, Brad, if you can believe it, oh, yeah, they presented evidence of intentional racial discrimination going on in the state of Louisiana from when? Before the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965, because they didn't have any current evidence of it. And also, the judge says, oh, well, blacks are entitled to a second congressional seat. Why? Well, because they're about a third of the population of the state of Louisiana. Well, obviously the judge didn't read Section 2, because Section 2 specifically says this law does not entitle any groups to proportional representation. Mm-hmm. So what does Louisiana do? Well, they do what the judge tells them to do. They draw up this second black district, and then they get sued again. But this time by white voters saying, look, you can't do that. You used race to draw up the lines of that second district, and a 3-judge panel said, yep, you can't do that. Why? That's a violation of the equal protection, the one person, one vote clause in the Constitution. And what the Supreme Court did 3 weeks ago now is they upheld that. But most importantly, they said 2 really big things. They said, one, if you're going to prove intentional racial discrimination so that a violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights occurred, you have to use current evidence.
Imagine that.
Yeah, you can't go back 50 or 100 years, okay? And then the other thing, and this was really important, was the court said, you've got to disentangle race from politics. In other words, look, if a group of folks, whether they're black or any other color, if they're voting the same way because of their political affiliation, in other words, they're voting for Democratic candidates because they're all Democrats, their color doesn't matter. The fact that they may be black doesn't somehow mean you've got a racial claim under Section 2 if those Democrats don't get their candidate elected. You know what really gets me about this is all these people yelling, the critics yelling about, all these black voters are disenfranchised in these Republican majority states. They haven't been complaining about the Republicans in blue states who are minority, who are unable to elect their candidates of choice. And so those are two really important factors. And that's why the court said that's the way to avoid people who are complaining about partisan gerrymandering, dressing it up as if it's racial gerrymandering and saying it's a violation of the law.
We're talking to Hans von Spakovsky. You know Hans, he's with the Advancing American Freedom. And Hans, I thought it was interesting. It was in a different area, but Justice Roberts, in the cases involving school admissions lawsuits, he famously said more than once, if you want to stop discriminating on the basis of race, then stop discriminating on the basis of race. And doesn't this decision from the Supreme Court, in fact, do that by saying we should not be discriminating on the basis of race when it comes to how we draw our congressional districts?
Yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. And, you know, I've had people, again, on the left calling me a racist because I've been out there saying that this was a good decision because the court said you shouldn't use race in redistricting. But that's
think about that. Let that sink in for a second, Hans, because you're being called a racist because you want it to be racially neutral, and now you're a racist.
Right. And look, my biggest piece of advice to state legislators now, whenever they're doing redistricting, when they go to their demographers, I've said this before, tell the demographers, do not send me any racial data on the population. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know about it, because that way all these groups who've been misusing the Voting Rights Act, they're going to have a tough time filing a lawsuit and saying, oh, you engaged in racial discrimination when we drew these lines.
And Hans, in your opinion piece, you mention, and I think this is a fantastic thing to point out, that it's easier to register to vote today than at any point in American history, which I don't think can be disputed. But if that's the case, why is it that so many on the left still talk as if we're living in the 1950s and we have segregated counters at diners?
Because they don't want to acknowledge reality. In fact, there was testimony from, I think it was the head of the NAACP just a week ago, in which he talked as if it was still 1965. And look, I'll tell you what's behind this. They basically had set up a racial spoils system, and that is being dismantled, and they don't like that. That's why they were so upset when the Supreme Court just a couple of years ago said the same thing when it came to college admissions. Remember, they said to colleges, you can no longer discriminate on the basis of race when you're evaluating people who want to be students. And again, the left just went crazy over that. Again, why? Because they had set up a racial spoil system, and the Supreme Court is dismantling that.
Yeah, I made the point. I went to St. Louis University Law Schools, where I graduated from, and I made the point, Hans, that if we implemented the racial quotas that the left wants, then I had like 30% of my law professors were Jewish, and I think in St. Louis the population is about 2%. So if we would follow that, I'd have to go to my old law professors and say, I'm sorry, we have to fire you solely and exclusively because you're Jewish, which is absurd. Right. But that's the natural implications of this idea. So here's my question, Hans. Do you think that Americans are hopefully beginning to push back against this idea that every election law disagreement automatically means you're a racist?
Oh yeah, and in fact, this is actually a very good example of how the leadership of the Democratic Party, the liberal professors, all their opinions don't match their constituency. And remember, all Democrats in Congress all keep saying that if you ask for a voter ID, you're a racist. Well, 83% of Americans say that voter ID is a common sense requirement, and that includes a majority of all Black Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and a majority of Democrats. Their constituency has a totally different opinion of this. By the way, the polling shows the same thing on college admissions. a majority of Americans, no matter their color, all think their kids should not be discriminated against or for when they apply to colleges. And again, that's completely different from the left-wing establishment in academia and, frankly, in Congress.
We're talking to Hans von Spakovsky. He's with the Advancing American Freedom. And I want to ask you this in closing, Hans, and this is something that really does concern me. What's from your perspective, what's the long-term danger of teaching Americans, like the left wants to do, that race should determine political representation? In other words, only blacks can represent blacks, only whites can represent whites, apparently only Asians can represent Asians. What's the danger of that viewpoint?
Well, anybody who knows anything about history and politics of Europe knows what the term Balkanization means. The Balkans, where Serbia, Slovenia, and those countries are, they are infamous for separating based on their ethnicity and their different languages, and not assimilating and integrating. And what has that led to for centuries? Constant civil wars. And that's what it would lead to in this country, too.
Hans, if people want to follow you online or read what you're doing right now with Advancing American Freedom, how can they follow you online?
They can go to the Advancing American Freedom website or go to H. von Spakovsky on X.
Well, I started, and I will tell you, I was slow to the party, confession time, but now that I'm with the party, I've been checking out Advancing American Freedom on a regular basis, and I'm glad you are there fighting the good fight, sir. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today here in St. Louis.
Sure, thanks for having me, and hey, happy Memorial Day to everyone.
Happy Memorial Day to you too, my friend. Thank you. Hey, we're going to take a break here on the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about, oh my goodness, I've got so much to talk about. One of the things I'm going to break down, as Ethan's called me the fire hose of information, I'm going to talk about this article that Newt Gingrich came out with about the 6 points that Republicans need to focus on to try to do well this November. I'll go through those next here on St. Louis Conservative, 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, not a bad commute, but we've had some issues out there. The latest is a tractor trailer reported off the roadway westbound 70 approaching David Hochul Parkway, and it created a jam back to the 64 split. Let's see, but they've cleared the accident northbound 170, and that's good. We've got westbound 70 wide open until you get to Highway A. 64 westbound looks good, too, until you get to the 64-70 split. And we've got eastbound 64, just some moderate volume at Big Bend. 270 is in good shape. Now, southbound 55 has been slowing a little bit at Z and a little bit at 67, but not much. And if you're headed into Illinois, eastbound 70 slows at 64. And we've got 64 eastbound slow approaching 157. This report is brought to you by Lakeside Renovation and Design. For over 25 years, they've been St. Louis's trusted choice for transforming homes inside and out. From windows and siding to kitchens, baths, outdoor spaces, they deliver quality craftsmanship backed by lifetime warranties. Visit lakesiderd.com to start your dream project today. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey, I want to talk about the Retirement Advisory Group and how they can help you make your life easier into retirement. Whether you're years away, decades away, or in retirement, they can help you. And I will tell you this, we're going to have another group seminar with the team in just a couple of weeks. I don't think I'm allowed to say anything right now, but it's coming up in the middle of June, and some people are just more comfortable in that group setting. We invite people out. It's very easy. It's relaxed. There's no pressure at all. It only lasts for a little more than an hour. Mark and Annie and I are there. We introduce the team, and it works out great. Now, you can always skip the line. Go right in one-on-one to the office. They'll give you a free copy of their latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. Check out their website, retirementkey.com. You can always find out more about what they do and schedule a meeting at 314-993-9494. They're the official financial planners of this show, Thomas Helbig and the Retirement Advisory Group. Don't put this off. It's a really important decision. And tell them we sent you along from 97.1 FM Talk, retirementkey.com.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they were very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They were in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
The Mark Reardon Show is St. Louis conservative.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in for Mark today. And I've got a topic I was teasing a minute ago, but there's a couple of things I need to mention from the text lines. If you want to text in, I read every text. I reply to some. I read everything. I'm also replying to the texts at youtube.com. Go there, Mark Reardon Show. You can participate in the show. Also, if you want to text in, 314-241-9797. It's easy to remember, 314-241-9797. One person, we've been having a great debate about taxes on here, and one person mentioned that, talking about like the Elon Musk and the Jeff Bezos, they have all this wealth, and they control these billions of trillions of dollars collectively, and shouldn't we be taxing that? Well, there's 2 problems with that. One is the Constitution. Because specifically under the 16th Amendment, which was passed in 1913, I believe, the 16th Amendment rather says that Congress may only tax incomes. And then it doesn't use the word you cannot tax wealth, but it says may only tax incomes. Why is that? And that's an important distinction that the left doesn't want you to understand. Let's talk this through. If you have a house, of course you pay taxes on that house. But if you could be taxed on your wealth, then every time your home increases in value, your taxes would go up similarly. Not just your taxes for property tax, but your wealth tax, whatever that would be. Or here's even a better scenario. Look at your 401k plan. If you've had a 401k plan for years now, look how much that's gone up. Do you want to be taxed on your retirement benefits simply because it gets an increase in value, as if that's a bad thing? No, that's a great thing that your wealth goes up so that you can prepare for retirement without having to rely upon the government. That's a great thing. But the left doesn't want you to rely upon yourself. The left wants you to rely upon the government. So if they can tax some of your money, that's set up for retirement as a wealth tax, then at that point, that drives more people to be reliant upon the government, which, what does that do from a power perspective? That makes the people in power in government even more powerful. And let's be honest here. Right now, Republicans have a slim majority in the House and the Senate, and the Republicans control the obviously the White House. But bureaucracies are all uber liberal. They are, and there's no greater way to prove this than to look at an election map. If you look at the map of Missouri, and you see all of the sea of red across the state of Missouri, where does it turn blue? The city, yes, that's for obvious reasons. City of St. Louis, Kansas City. But there's only one other blue spot in the state. Where is that? Columbia and Jefferson City. Why? You've got state government in Jeff City. You've got Columbia with a university. If you look at any state where you look at the seat of power, even in deep red states, the bluest part of the state is where the bureaucracies are located, because bureaucracies are inherently left. They're inherently progressive. So we don't want the progressive people in this country to institute a wealth tax, because eventually the rich people figure out what to do with their money, okay? That's why the Cayman Islands exists. So if you create this system where we're only going to tax the rich, Brad. We're only going to tax the billionaires. That's all we're going to do for a wealth tax. What happens when you build bureaucracies in government? Because that's what happens when the government raises more money, it creates more bureaucracy, which in turn requires more money to fund it. And so if you create a bigger bureaucracy based upon the wealth tax from billionaires, what happens when those billionaires shift their money to other countries? They shift them to the Canary Islands. They shift them to other places that are tax havens like Switzerland or elsewhere. What happens when the billionaires have the financial resources to transfer their money elsewhere and the government grows based upon the size of the wealth tax? Who's left to pay that tax? That's you and it's me. Those are the folks that are left to pay those taxes, not the billionaires, because they're always going to figure out ways to not pay taxes because they hire really smart lawyers. Oh, wait, I'm being redundant. They're hiring really smart lawyers and accountants to figure out how to allow them to not pay taxes. And then that leaves the tax burden on you and on me. That's why this idea of making the wealthy evil and categorize them as being evil is so really harmful to legitimate tax policy in this country, because we're trying to marginalize the wage earner or marginalize the entrepreneurial class as being evil. Now, I took that divergent path here. I also want to say one other thing. Balls he texted in and he said, hey, you got to give a shout out to the Annie Fry Show. That's easy to do because it's a great show, so I'm happy to do that. I ran out of time to go through the Gingrich points, but you know what they are. In fact, somebody's already texted this in. Somebody texted in, I will give you 2 points for free. The key to winning in November: lower gas prices and figure out how to cap student debt loans at a reasonable rate. I'm not sure I agree with the second one, but I absolutely agree with the first one. And that's why I think between now and November, you're going to see an enormous push by this administration to work on ways to lower the price of gasoline. And we're to benefit from that. So I'm thrilled that they're going to do that. Hey, we're going to take a break here. When we come back from this break, we're going to talk to Mark Sundlov. He's the managing director of the Soldiers Memorial Military Museum. This is Memorial Day weekend, and there's a lot going on there. I love the Soldiers Memorial Museum. I've been there many times. Most recently, I was there like 3 weeks ago. They've got great programs, and I thought there's no better way to honor the Memorial Day weekend than to talk to the director, the managing director of the Soldiers Memorial Military Museum. Stick around. We'll be talking to Mark Sundlov next, right here on the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young sitting in. 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Watch out for an accident northbound 170 at Frost. They're partially in the right lane. They're trying to be on the shoulder, but that right lane is partially blocked, and we've got some slow-moving traffic behind it. Now, we're quiet in North County on westbound and eastbound 270. Westbound 70 out of downtown looks great. It jams up as you head for David Hochul Parkway. Just before that, we had a tractor trailer go off the road, and it's caused a delay in that area. 64 looks pretty good until you get to the 70 split, and we really are looking good. Now, 55 a little slow at Z through the construction zone, but if you're headed into Illinois, things look great. There is some volume eastbound 64 approaching 157, that due to road work. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
Many times, a person hires a law firm after an injury without doing research. It can be a big mistake or not. Sometimes, after you have hired a certain lawyer, you realize you made a certain mistake. But guess what? Just because you hire them doesn't mean you can't fire them. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. If you think you've hired the wrong firm, you may have. So do this. Google Morgan & Morgan results or visit forthepeople.com for cases just like yours. You may find that our full-service injury firm should have been your choice in the first place. Last year, almost 12,000 people discharged their law firm and hired us after further research. We became America's largest injury firm for a reason. Visit forthepeople.com today and let's get started. Or call Pound Law on your cell phone. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results. Every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
The time is 5:33. The time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing.
From Wood River to Weldon Springs, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Brad Young in for Mark, and happy Memorial Day weekend. I hope that in the midst of cooking on the grill or whatever it is that you've got planned for this weekend, that you take time to remember that the point of Memorial Day isn't just to cook on the grill. It's not just to eat hamburgers and hot dogs, but it's to remember those who have died for our country. And that's an important, vitally important thing to remember. So I thought it to be fitting today more than perhaps almost any other day to reach out to Mark Sundlov. He's the managing director of the Soldiers Memorial Military Museum in downtown St. Louis. Mark, it's great to talk to you again.
Hey, Brad, thanks for having me on the air. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
I was just at the museum. Let's see. I was there for the talk about the Ghost War soldiers. I was there whenever you had the discussion about the St. Louisan who crashed a plane during World War II and saved a whole field full of kids in Europe, in England. I was there for that one. So there's a lot going on. But also I understand that the annual Memorial Day observance on Monday morning. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our, real signature events of the year. So we'll start here 10 a.m. on Monday, Memorial Day, and it's outdoor ceremony that takes place on the south steps facing our Court of Honor, where the memorials are located that have the engraved names of St. Louisans who have lost their lives in conflicts from World War I all the way up through today. So yeah, as you said in your intro there, it's it's an opportunity. We're all going to be doing the barbecue and the baseball and the beer more than likely, but this is your opportunity, for 1 to 2 hours to come and just kind of pause and remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, it's hard to imagine that there's close to 5,000 individuals on the memorials here. All of those young men and women who lost their lives in service. And, the least we can do is pause and gather once a year to remember their ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, Mark, when I was at both my father and my father-in-law both fought in Korea. And so when my wife and I and our family were in Washington, D.C. a few years back, we went to the Korean War Memorial. And there was something there that will always stick with me, and that is that freedom isn't free. It is bought with a price. And that price is the soldiers who died for our freedom. And so I'll never forget that. And another thing I'll never forget, in a previous year, at the memorial ceremony here at the Soldiers Memorial, you had an event that was a wreath-laying ceremony, and there was an opportunity for visitors to place yellow carnations at the memorial sites. Is that going to happen again?
Yes, yep, that's definitely a part of it. So we'll be laying the wreaths at the memorials in the Court of Honor, and then each visitor will have the opportunity to pick up one or many golden carnations to lay at a memorial of their choosing. Of course, a lot of our visitors have family or friends who they identify on the memorial, so it's a small way for them to, lay a flower at the memorial of their choice and make a more personal connection to the event and to the day. So, yeah, definitely that. And we're very proud to have the Airlifter Brass Ensemble. They'll be playing the musical accompaniment for the ceremony. Doing a little bit different this year. Typically we've had the music at the beginning and the end of the ceremony, but this year we've incorporated their music all throughout the ceremony. So it'll be something special. And then Scouts of America will be here, and they will be presenting and raising the flag at the beginning of the ceremony, and then they'll lead us in the procession into the Court of Honor for the laying of the wreaths. So it should be a very special day.
We're talking to Mark Sundlov. He's the managing director of the Soldiers Memorial Military Museum in downtown St. Louis. And Mark, one thing that I've heard veterans say is that Memorial Day is not really about celebrating war, but it's about honoring sacrifice. It's about honoring duty. It's about honoring loss. Do you think Americans as a whole fully appreciate that distinction?
I hope so. I think, and certainly Soldiers Memorial here in St. Louis, it was opened in 1938, and that's always been part of the mission. Franklin Roosevelt, when he was here and dedicating the site, made it a point to say that, we're not here to glorify or honor war, but really that service and that sacrifice, especially the sacrifice. And Soldiers Memorial here in St. Louis has always carried that tone of, we're not here glorifying war and conflict, but we're really honoring and remembering those who have served, and then even more so those who have given their lives in service. I really hope that message rings throughout the public for sure.
Yeah, just like the event I was at, Mark, a couple of weeks ago that was honoring that man from St. Louis who was piloting an aircraft in World War II, and he was in England, and his plane had been shot, and he was coming down to crash, and the only open place for him to land a plane was a park with school children, and he chose to go into the trees rather than kill school children in a park. And when I hear that, of course, it's a tragedy no matter what happens. But to me, that story so exemplified the idea of sacrifice, of duty, of honor, of saying, I'm going to lay down my life as a pilot of that aircraft, and the men who are on board, I'm going to do that because I don't want to place my life above the lives of children who are innocent and they're playing. And to me, that's just very, very moving. And I'm hoping that, like the event that you're going to have Monday at the Soldiers Memorial Military Museum, is going to remind people that it's not about war so much as it is about honor, duty, and sacrifice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very well said, Brad. Yeah, I that story of Lieutenant Kriegshauser and the crew of that plane. You can't help but just it's so awe-inspiring. It's tragic, but at the same time, it's like, wow, what a level of sacrifice and commitment and just the humanity of it all. It's just incredible. And every individual who has lost their life in service, I'm sure, has these stories connected as well. And that's one thing we focus on here at Soldiers Memorial, is trying to get across the stories of the individuals and really understanding who these St. Louisans who preceded us, just who they were, and a little deeper understanding that way, for sure.
Well, Mark, tell us again, just remind us, what are the times for the event on Monday? Where should they be? And then if you could, give us some information about where people can look this up online if they want additional information.
Sure. So the Memorial Day observance is 10 a.m. at Soldiers Memorial. It lasts about an hour, so not real long. The museum is open Monday until 5 p.m., so after the ceremony, folks are welcome to go inside and see our premier exhibit, St. Louis in Service. And then if they're looking for more information, go to mohistory.org/memorial, and they can find details there. But 10 a.m. on Monday is the time to be here.
Mark Sundlov, Managing Director of the Soldiers Memorial Military Museum in downtown St. Louis. Hey, thanks for taking time out of this, which is a very busy time for you. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your efforts to get the word out about Soldiers Memorial and the programs here.
It's my pleasure, my friend. Good to talk to you again.
Okay, you take care.
You too. Bye-bye. Brad Young sitting in for Mark Reardon today. We've got the audio cut of the day coming up in the next segment. I don't know where these past 2 hours and 45 minutes have gone, but I thank you for hanging out with us right here on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got really light traffic, but a couple of issues. One is an accident northbound 170 at Frost in the right lane, and the other was a tractor trailer off the road westbound 70 approaching David Hochul Parkway, and there is a jam behind that. Now, and it goes back to the 64-70 split, but that's it. Other than those two things on the Missouri side, we're fine. Now, on the Illinois side, there's some volume eastbound 64 at 255. And other than that, it's quiet. It looks great on the bridges downtown. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Brought to you by USPS Ground Advantage.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast.
Pump up the volume.
When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
97.1 FM Talk is proud to support the Guns N' Hoses First Responders Soccer Cup, May 30th at Worldwide Technology Soccer Park. Law enforcement battles firefighters and EMTs on the field, all for a great cause. 971talk.com/events.
Mark Cox here. Bring your home back to life with Zero Res. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean right now, starting at just $139, and whole home air duct cleaning starting at just $599. Visit ZeroResSTL.com and tell them 97.1 sent you.
License number GL2500615.
You're cooking dinner. The lights go out. You flip the breaker and forget about it.
But what if it keeps tripping?
Trips once, your breaker's doing its job. Keeps tripping? That's a warning. bad wiring, or something worse.
Do people just keep flipping it?
Most do, until they can't anymore.
Call Grasser. We'll stop the trip.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
Annie Fry here. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They are the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com. One of the biggest gifts you can give your family is peace of mind. That's why I trust and recommend Civia Law. They've helped so many families, including mine, right here in our community with estate planning, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, and elder law issues. I've seen how stressful it can be when a loved one passes without a plan. Families are left confused, sometimes tied up in probate court, and it can cost so much in time and money. But with Civia Law, you don't have to worry about that. They'll walk you through everything and even deliver your completed documents in just 2 weeks from your first appointment. And here's something special just for you. Mention the Annie Fry Show, and the first 10 listeners right now will get a free strategy session. That's a $300 value. 833-995-WILL. Just be sure to mention the Annie Fry Show when you call. Civia Law has 7 convenient locations across Illinois and Missouri, including in Edwardsville, Swansea, and Creve Coeur. Secure your legacy and protect the people you love. Call 833-995-WILL. That's 833-995-WILL, or visit civialaw.com.
It's time for you to get to know my friends at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield, where luxury meets comfort. Mark Cox here. They have a great selection of rare bourbons, whiskeys, craft cocktails, anything you like to drink, cold beer, premium hand-rolled cigars from the finest makers in the world, even private lockers that are available if you choose to. Perfect for date nights or business meetings, and live music every Friday night. Family owned and operated. Check them out in Chesterfield at the District. It's litstl.com.
Nothing makes a gathering great like Eggland's Best Eggs. They're just so delicious with better nutrition, too. For us, it's eggs any style, as long as they're the best. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Mark Reardon is St. Louis conservative.
Welcome back to the Mark Reardon Show. Sliding into the last segment here today. Appreciate you listening. I've had a couple of callers texting in about abortion issues. Listen, I would love to talk about those issues, but unfortunately, we just don't have time today because the rest of the show is going to end here in just a few minutes. So thanks for your patience and understanding, and I'll catch up on some of those next time I'm filling in. What's interesting about this show is that you get not only analysis and interviews, but you also get to hear audio clips that expose the lies of the progressive left and also emphasize, in many instances, the beauty and pageantry of capitalism and free markets. And that's what brings us to the audio cut of the day.
Stand by. Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
You know, during the show today, we've covered a lot of economic topics, and sometimes that's hard to talk about. It's hard to talk about taxes because a lot of times people's eyes just roll into the back of their heads when you talk about taxes. But taxes, I think, are important because they represent not only the way things are, but so many on the left want it to be the way things ought to be. And you just can't tax the wealth of people without there being a revolt. That's what would happen. And so it's interesting that it demonstrates in so many ways the reality of how things work. And yet this quote from Gavin Newsom really exposes how Gavin Newsom himself doesn't understand the reality of how things work with oil.
But the cost of diesel is off the charts. The cost of now delivering food to the grocery store for the truckers is going to be passed along through the cost of those groceries and the cost of those vegetables and fruits. And we're going to start to see this cascading effect.
Now, do you see the irony of Gavin Newsom talking about oil prices? Are oil prices up because of Trump's actions? Of course they are. There's no question about that. Personally, I think it's worth the trade-off. Because imagine, if you will, Imagine if Iran had a nuclear weapon. We like to think about them as being like big intercontinental ballistic missiles like we have. Iran would never have that. But Iran, with fissionable uranium, could easily put that together in a bomb that could go in the back of a truck. And then what do you do with that? You drive that. This would be their plan. You drive a truck with a nuclear bomb in the back, and you drive it into the Saudi Arabian oil fields and detonate it. Think about what would happen if a truck bomb with fissionable material not only detonated in the Saudi Arabian oil fields, but irradiated that entire oil fields for the next 200 to 500 years. What would that do to the price of oil? The price of oil would go from $100 a barrel to $1,000 a barrel overnight, instantly. And so when I see gasoline prices high, I don't like it. Who does? But it's still cheaper than what it would be if Iran had a truck bomb, which they could build. Listen, high school students in America have designed nuclear weapons. So it's not like it's beyond their ability. But they have to have fissionable uranium, which is what President Trump is trying to make them get rid of. But how disingenuous is it of Gavin Newsom to complain about Trump's oil prices and gasoline prices when what does California have? They have the highest gasoline taxes in the country. It's $2 a gallon more to buy gas in California than it is in Joplin, Missouri. Why? Because of Gavin Newsom's tax prices. So I find it, or tax rates. So I find it ironic that he's complaining about the price of oil when he himself is adding tremendously to the price of gasoline at the pump because of progressive tax policies. And here's the answer from Steve Hilton, who's currently running for governor in California.
We're importing not just crude oil, but finished gasoline because we don't have the refinery capacity anymore, and we're not producing our own. Sable, just off the coast of Santa Barbara, actually one of the largest deposits in the country now, second only to the Permian Basin by some estimates, completely blocked by Gavin Newsom. Everywhere you look, they're standing in the way of the kind of growth and opportunity that we could be having.
So in this country, I believe it was last year, we just approved the first new oil refinery in this country for decades, maybe since the 70s. The first oil refinery. So you could have all the oil that you want in this country, but if you can't refine it into gasoline, it doesn't matter. You can't burn oil in your gas tank, so you have to have refineries. What has California done? California has constantly and consistently banned the expansion of oil refineries, banned the creation of new oil refineries. Democrats in Congress have placed so many regulations, not just in Congress, but in the administration of Democrat presidents, have put so many restrictions on oil refineries. And that's what keeps you from having $2 gasoline. Now, right now, is gasoline $4.19 a gallon in the St. Louis area? Sure it is. And that will come down once oil starts free flowing through the Straits of Hormuz. Or, as I read today, there's an oil pipeline that's going to bypass the Strait of Hormuz that right now is 50% completed. And so when we get that free flowing oil, which is code word for capitalism, can be sold at market prices, your gasoline prices will come down. But if progressives have their way and add more taxes to the gasoline tax, more restrictions on new refineries, more restrictions on existing refineries, then it doesn't matter how much oil is coming out of the Strait of Hormuz, the Middle East, or Alaska. Your gasoline prices are still going to be sky high, because that's the thing about taxes. Oil and gasoline can go up or down based upon market forces. But taxes never come down, folks. Taxes only stay the same or go higher. That's why, in part, that we're paying such high prices at the pump. And sure, gasoline prices impact everything from groceries to home costs to anything that you have. But folks, the key to prosperity is to keep those taxes low. Brad Young sitting in for Mark Reardon today. Thanks for hanging out with us here on St. Louis Conservative 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Really nice commute for a Friday, a holiday kickoff, except the big jam on westbound 70. Unfortunately, there was a tractor trailer that went off the roadway westbound 70 approaching David Hochul Parkway, and they are trying to get that situation taken care of. And in the meantime, we have a parking lot jam back through the 64 split. But other than that, we are fine. Now, on the Illinois side, there's a little bit of a slowdown eastbound 64 approaching 157. That is due to road work. But other than that, we look good. Have a great weekend. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
Honey, I found the one.
Oh, I thought I was the one.
Oh, you are, but this one's certified, background check, shows up on time, and can install all the ceiling fans.
Heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Trusted pros who do it right.
Wow, what an offer from Stewart's American Mortgage right now. This is a limited time offer. If you are about to purchase a home, or if you're thinking about purchasing a home, this may help you make your decision, because what Stewie is doing is he's offering anyone buying a new home a 1% discount on your interest rate for the first year. So for the first year of your new loan, you lock in a 1% lower rate on a 30-year mortgage. And you still get the bagel loan, and that means no closing costs. So again, 30-year mortgage, interest rate lower by 1% for the first year plus the bagel loan, and that means you save money. That's what Stewie is all about. The bagel loan was created to save people thousands of dollars. It's called the bagel loan because you pay zero in fees that other lenders charge for. So if you refi, no appraisal fees, no closing costs, no title fees, no broker fees, zero. If you're buying, you're going to take advantage of the 1% lower interest rate and the advantages of the bagel loan. We give you a cell number because we know that it's such an easy process, and he wants to hear from you. 314-324-4440. Google the bagel loan. NMLS number 226715.
Summer is on the way, or should I say the heat in St. Louis, it's on its way. Be here before we even know it. If you haven't had your air conditioners checked and set up and ready to go for this cooling season, or if you were told you might need a new one, or you just think this is the time of the year, this year is the time to just go ahead and replace it. Prices are down, 0% financing is available. It's still the best time to call me. Don't put it off. One easy number in Missouri and Illinois. It is 314-293-2600. Again, that's 314-293-2600 in Missouri and Illinois, or on the internet, bartinman.com. That is Bart with a B, Inman with an I.com. God bless.
Well, we saved it for quite literally the last moment of the show today, and we talked to yesterday Mark Sutherland about the St. Louis Air Show that is coming up next weekend on Saturday and Sunday. Well, we have the opportunity now for you guys to win more tickets. So we're going to be giving away our final pair of tickets to the St. Louis Air Show right now for Sunday, June 7th. If you call 314-241-9797, caller number 5 wins a pair of tickets.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, you're not alone. Most importantly, you don't have to live with it. Paramount Men's Medical Center restores men's sex lives in just one visit. Their painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, even when Viagra and Cialis don't work. Here's Dr. Simovitz, specialist in men's health.
Paramount Men's Medical Center's painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, regardless of age or medical history. 98% of patients see instant results right in the office.
Men are now lasting longer than they ever imagined. And the best part, at Paramount Men's Medical Center, your consultation and first treatment are free. Qualified patients even get their testosterone checked free. Call 314-887-4333. 314-887-4333. Take control of your sex life. Call now. 314-887-4333.
KFTK FM Florissant.
Odyssey station.
The president hits the road. I'm Tom Graham, Fox News. President Trump holding a campaign-style rally, making a stop in his original home state.
Under the Trump administration, we're doing everything we can to bring New York back in bigger, better, stronger than ever before.
The president speaking in a small community about 30 miles north of New York City. Trump is expected to ramp up campaign-style events as the November midterm elections draw closer. The El Salvadorian national, whose cause became a rallying point for critics of President Trump's immigration policies, got a court win today in Tennessee. Charges against Kilmar Abrego Garcia have been tossed.
U.S. District Judge Waverly Crenshaw granted Abrego Garcia's dismissal motion for what he and his lawyers claimed was a selective, vindictive prosecution. The defendant was accused by the DOJ in a human smuggling case. He was at one point deported to his native El Salvador last year, but the courts ordered the federal government to facilitate his return. Judge Crenshaw, in his study of the evidence, said if Abrego Garcia had not successfully challenged the deportation, the prosecution he threw out would not have been brought. The government says it still wants to deport him to a third-party country, such as Liberia. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Tulsi Gabbard says she's stepping down as Director of National Intelligence.
Gabbard posted on social media a copy of a letter she wrote to President Trump. She wrote, "I must submit my resignation. Unfortunately, effective June 30th, my husband Abraham has recently been diagnosed with an extremely rare form of bone cancer. He faces major challenges in the coming weeks and months. At this time, I must step away from public service."
Fox's David Spunt in Washington. President Trump offering her praise on Wall Street. The Dow hitting an all-time high again today, closing up 294 points. The Nasdaq gained 51, while the S&P 500 climbed nearly 28 points. America's listening to Fox News.
When did watching TV go from a way to relax to a complicated chore? Well, if you're sick of huge cable bills or endlessly searching for the show everyone's talking about, then welcome to Philo. Philo's the streaming service that respects both your time and your wallet, without needing to cut the stuff you actually love to watch. This means live TV for more than 70 channels like Hallmark, History, A&E, and